participants. I hope you're also ready. Okay, so good afternoon to everybody. This afternoon is the start of the continuation of our ISO 9001 2015 QMS orientation, the orientation training. And it was not this morning, as some of you may have thought. And so before we start anything else, may we have an opening prayer to be led by Ma'am Edita Grande. So for those who are here, can we please stand? For Ma'am Jen is going to start with the continuation of the topics for our orientation, reorientation training. May I please first give some reminders, okay? So as per reminders that were posted in your GCs last time, the remaining dates of our training are tomorrow, March 16, 17, 18. So this afternoon, we will be having as the topic of Ma'am Jen, change control management. Then tomorrow until Wednesday, we will be having internal quality audit. And then the last day, March 18, we will be having the root cause analysis as the last topic. And I hope that all the participants from the very start of our training continue to attend all of these different topics because they're very, very important. And you will be using all of these while we continue to implement and fix or prepare or continue doing our documents and implementing our different QMS processes. Okay. Then for the time of our training, I hope you really read the reminders last time, including the schedule, because it's very clear there that the time of our schedule for today is actually 1 o'clock. But the President is here na. Our President, by the way, is going to give some inspirational message before we're going to start. And tamang-tama, our President is already around. So Ma'am Jen, can we pause for a while? Or, sir, is it okay that you'll start or would you like to rest first? Okay, so maybe all welcome our University President, Dr. President Felipe Salaing Comila, to give us some inspirational message which we need very badly as we go through this orientation training in our implementation of our ISO 9001-2015 QMS. So sir, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am. Thank you, Ma'am Marie. Nakaon ito. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon po.
To include those who are raptured, but according to Ma'am Marie, they are now online. So, don't worry. You are still alive, those who are online. Kaya sabi nga nila, on. Naka-line pa. In the line of duty, not, well, you can say in the line of fire. So fire tayo sa ISO. It's change control management. And this is still a training, you're saying? Very good. I have seen the heart of Ma'am Marie, her dedication, passion, commitment. And I see her service to the university, something that is, to my mind, it's beyond my expectation. That's why I promised her, if it is open for Japan, then I will send her, or in Singapore, wherever she may want. Because workers like all of you should also be given, not necessarily in terms of money. But I would pledge to her $100. Pwede yan. Magkano ba yun? 5,000. konti, ano. Uh, I'll do my best. I shall reserve for you pagdating ng panahon. Yeah. The word control is not necessarily to control your neck. You know, when I have viand na fish, okay lang. Yung chicken, okay lang. Pero pag yung baboy, talagang nakokontrol ako sa likod. May nagkukulyo sa akin sa likod, hindi sa harap. Okay lang, may necktie nagkukulyo sa akin. It's a beautiful term. Control,
The way,
not you, but it's how the flow of communications are being validated, being monitored, so that things are done in its proper perspective. And this is what I have seen in management also. There are things, akala ko perma lang ako ng perma. Now, it's sinking in to me yung mga disbursement voucher, mga request for, yung mga request, purchase order, creating an office. Parang gumagasgas na sa akin, parang routinary na ito. Ang gusto kong gawin talaga is to continuously look for linkaging and funding so that these activities we would like to do will be given more funding. And there is something you are going to implement. It may be you are saying it's my office, but my office, I find it to be facilitative, collaborative. That's why all of you should be part of the team of management. You are given this privilege, this access. I'm glad we have Ma'am Marie, who has all the heart to share. Probably I would understand her very well because she is about to go to the twilight in her career. That's why she would like that there should be a gene. Kaya nga, Ma'am Marie, bago ka mag-retire, you give me one gene na I will employ. Like what I have promised to Dr. Garin. Open ito. I'm open. Sayang naman yung genes mo. Lilisan ka na wala kang iiwanan. And those people who were trained are people who should continue to help us so that comes the new generation, they will not have some problems, but they are well guided like what Ma'am Marie is doing. She is mentoring. So I don't know, she hasn't intimated yet to me kung sino ang tutulong sa kanya, who will be Joshua to Moses. You know what Moses has done? I think I have said this to one of our trainers or accreditors. I said, my model in the university is Joshua. Whenever I raise my hand, someone has to hold it just in case I am tired so that the battle we are entering will win. That's how Joshua was winning. Moses was praying and doing his job while Aaron and another assistant were holding his hand. So it's up. Almost every now and then, I go to cathedral in other place who do not see me. Nobody sees me. I pray for all of you. From the admin aid 1 to the vice presidents, and to include the board of projects. Already yesterday, or the other day, before I went for driving from here to Bukod to Bugyas and back, took me 7 hours. Joyride lang. The good congressman said, Pres, mag-ano tayong diagnostic place, diagnostic examination for our people. Okay. I said, right away. Saan ang gusto mo? Yung daw malapit sa hospital. So, we might have it there in between the PNB and then MacDo. So, these are part of accreditation. We not only because accreditation is a term, a very beautiful concept that tells us that these are the things to be done internationally so that we will not be benighted, left behind. I would like to use this term. Let's always enthrall our mind with conventional things. If there are some changes, let's take it. Let's grab it. That's how United States, Japan, Singapore, among others, were able to come up with their own version of who they are today. I had been listening much to Lee Kuan Yew's speech, Jack Ma, uh, sino yung President Reagan, ang ganda. Is a very good, I've been listening to Marcos' speeches. At least 3 people had said, para kang si Marcos. So, okay naman. I've been practicing anyway. If you remember during the public presentation, did I ever use any? Did I ever use any copy? Did I ever use? It's a matter of perfecting what you have in mind in a heart. So I'm so happy that Ma'am Marie is with you. I could live and have my relaxation because andito siya. So after this training, I know and I'm confident you will also practice what she has mentored to each of you. This is our direction. I have to admit before her, I needed another vice president. So after my term, there will be 5 presidents after I shall have graduated. Sabi niya, ang hirap. But she says, we can do it. Kaya sabihin ninyo, magkano ba ang budget na kailangan ninyo? Tell me, and I will look for it. Para naman, this accreditation job will not simply be a thing. It's not simply be a theory, but in action. I said this morning in the flag ceremony, so many theories, like that one guy, one faculty, na pinansin ko talaga. Because he has his other version ideology. And then when we talk together, sabi niya, okay sir, I'm sorry, I have to place it in the proper perspective. Maganda. But he said, but I will still be me. Okay, you can still. That's principle. And I respect principles. But the difference that we do is we have principles, but we differ in action. Even if that principle is so precious, if the way how we do it to implement it is differently implemented, it may not be appreciated. So your president will continue to do what is appropriate, what is proper, in order to have this, to achieve the objective of ISO, management of change. So I wish to congratulate all of you for having chosen your choice, your decision to join this activity so that the university will continue to progress as what we are expecting. As all of you, my encouragement to all of you is continue to read our vision and mission, and that will guide you. If however, what you believe is another ideology, then I would encourage you to just stay in the classroom and be an academician. Practice your own view. You can criticize me to the students. After all, the students are the people who would just simply listen, and they might use it because your otherwise ideology is something that may be useful 4 years from now, or maybe a bit longer from now. So that's my encouragement to you. But if you can stay with me, like Ma'am Marie, then learn to read me. Learn to come to me and have coffee with me. We discuss things together. Those are the ways by which we can iron out things. I just had a brief chat with our professor Guillermo Mendoza, our balik scientist this morning. I didn't know he was the one. Although I met him, we met him last week already. But he was there this morning having his jogging around. And oh, press, good morning. Okay, let's have. Then we went to the point of, you see, sharing this or discussions are like those of the town hall concept in the United States. That's why they were able to express themselves as open as they are. And that's one thing I like. That's how we sharpen things together. This ISO is sharpening our procedures, how we do things. So that's my encouragement to all of you. If you wish, you can always come have coffee with me. Otherwise, if you really don't like to see me even within my term, then I would encourage you to continue to be an academician, and you will find satisfaction in what you are doing. But for those of you who might be thinking of taking over the reins of governance, then you might want to hear from me. I might share something with you. Imagine 22 years in the waiting before I became like this until finally I have decided to really absorb the political life. That's why I'm a politician now. I'm also a casual job order, just few years to go. And I'm so happy. If by God's grace I shall reach that 63, I'll be turning double citizen this year. Ma'am Marie is welcoming me. So, okay lang. But if the powers that be says, please do more service, then I will have to evaluate myself if I have satisfied my clients, satisfied the needs of this university, especially on promotion. That's why, for encouragement, I'd like to promote one as university professor within my term. Kung kaya ko yung dalawa, pwede. Just in case you say, gusto pa namin yung another two university professors, then we have to work it out. I'd like to promote all of you. As much as possible, make a dream that by age 40, professor ka na. Or maybe 38, something like that. Pero ang hirap nag-accredit ako yung nagpo-professor, 60 sila. Why do we have to wait for that? Do it in your own. Publish more. I will ask Ma'am Marie to guide us in how to be a Scopus publisher, among others. Thank you very much. God bless everyone. God bless PSU.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sir President, for giving us the time and the words of wisdom. And we really need these encouragements, especially now that after this training, we really have to work doubly hard so that we will be able to um, contribute in our own little way to the development and success of our university. So thank you very much, sir. Meron po mamaya, sir. Pero kung gusto niyong dagdagan, pwede rin, sir. Okay, Ma'am Jen, may I please continue to just give some reminders? Okay lang.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so for those who are here and online, I was giving some reminders a while back in terms of um, the topics and the remaining dates of our training. And I hope that you have been given more inspiration to continue with the work at hand with our President's words of encouragement and wisdom. And so as we continue with our training, may I just remind that the time of our training will be as usual, no, like last week. We start exactly 8:30 sana, if all of you are already around at 8:30, it would be much better for those who are here and those who are online to log in earlier also. So this will be until March 18. Now, for the meals and handouts, unfortunately, for those who are online, um, they will not have the luxury of having meals and handouts. It will only be for the on-site participants. Now, for the certificates, may I inform everyone that our certificates that are being given by Quality Plus are per topic, no? So, mag-iipon tayo ng mga certificates natin as we participate throughout this training. And that is one of the reasons why we have been monitoring your attendance in each of the topics, because as you remember in one of the guidelines that Ma'am Jen gave last time, Quality Plus gave us, you should be able to attend at least 75% of the time per topic. So we have given out the certificates for March 2 already. Yung kasing March 3 and 4 available na, kaso na i-upload individually, and it's so difficult for us to download each and then after that upload in the GCs and emails. So I have requested Quality Plus to send all of these through Google Drive na lang so that it will be easier to share the Google Drive and then you just look for your certificate. So kindly have some patience anyway. This will be available anytime soon. They have already been given to us, pero yun nga, individual. So we're just waiting for the email of Quality Plus sending this through Google Drive. Okay, and then another reason why there are some of you who have not been given the certificates March 2 is because of the names that you have registered, specifically for those online. Kasi hindi yung real name ang niregister nyo. Sa Zoom, ang ICT ang nagmo-monitor nito. So sila yung nagbigay sa amin ng listahan ng lahat ng online participants per day since last week. But if your name there is like, let's say, Oppo or Adport2 or ano pa yung mga pinaglalagay doon, there's really no way by which we will be able to know your identity. So if you are interested in your certificate, kindly just approach any of the OQA staff so that they can change the pseudo name to your real name and so you can have your certificate. But don't worry because we will be but if your name there is like, let's say, Oppo or ay, that's my voice. Parang naulit. Ba't ganon? Kala ko may nag-interrupt. Sarili ko rin pala nag-interrupt. Paano yun? So anyway, so that's it, no? Please use your real names. So, since there are going to be 3 more topics.
So I'm glad to see you once again for this another series of training. This time, nandito na tayo sa ating second batch and we still have 3 topics to discuss. So this afternoon, we'll be discussing change control management. Then tomorrow and on Wednesday morning, we'll be discussing internal quality audit. And then on the last day, Thursday, we'll be discussing the corrective action process or the root cause analysis. Yan. Thank you then for the presence of our president for that very inspiring and encouraging message to all of us. No, indeed, kailangan po talaga ng commitment and engagement, no? Engagement ng bawat isa para maging successful ang ating quality management system. And since nasa second time na tayo magpa-certify, no? So certification na tayo, we really want your management system to be sustainable, no? So magandang itong mga series of trainings na ito, meron tayong mga bagong mga members. So kayo po yung inaasahan din natin na magpatuloy, no, ng mga nasimula nating ma-establish noong nakaraang mga taon. So for this training, another requirement ito under our planning and then may continuation ito sa ating implementation sa do, no? Again, always remember that when we talk about ISO, we talk about plan, do, check, and act. No, doon sa ating mga napag-usapan nung first week of March, meron tayo dung pinag-usapan about planning, no? So yung ating risks and opportunities. Nandun din yung ating documentation. And then, of course, after knowing all this, all the documents that we have established in your university, we have to implement, no? That's the do. Then, check would be the internal quality audit, management review, and your monitoring, measurement analysis for your different processes. That's the check. And then act would be the corrective action process or the root cause analysis. So you see the series of training that we have starts from plan. Then, of course, we're expecting that you're doing it. No, we are implementing it. And then we have a training on check and act. Okay, so para po masustain ang ating quality management system, because as we are certified to our ISO, it is expected that our plan, do, check, act is continuously working, no, together with our top management as the center of our PDCA. And we have the different inputs of our quality management system, those that directly and indirectly affect our operation and our strategic objectives. No? So lahat ng yun po, we are trying to manage para ma-achieve natin yung ating mga intended outputs, which are the customer satisfaction, characteristics of your services, your quality education, and of course, the achievement of your different targets, KPIs, be it the IPCR, OPCR, DPCR, or our QMS KPIs. Okay? So, again, if you have questions, please feel free to chat in your question in our chat box for those who are attending online. And for those who are attending on-site dun sa ating CTE function hall, I think dun pa rin tayo, no? So you may call the attention of Dr. Marie para kung meron po kayo mga katanungan, we can address that. And I will be pausing after the section for you to give time for each who has questions po. Okay? So we would like to have this webinar as lively as possible. So we're expecting your participation. No? So your questions, your insights are very much welcome. Again, the title of our webinar for this afternoon is Change Control Management. And these are our learning outcomes. First is to define change control management and identify its application and benefits. So again, since this is not the first time that we'll be running this webinar, maybe some of you already attended the first time we run this. This is a whole day training workshop. Since this is a refresher course na lang, so we opted to have it half day kasi meron na naman tayo nitong naka-establish na procedure. It's just that we need to revisit para maging implemented na siya, no, sa ating organization. So we want to define change control management and identify its applications and benefits. And also, we want to reiterate conditions that trigger the implementation of our change control management and explain the steps in change control process in the organization. So after all this, it is expected that we are to implement our change control management. No, I believe you have a team to control the change, right? So maganda po maintindihan din natin ano-ano ba yung mga changes at maaaring magkaroon din tayo ng revision or improvement dun sa ating composition ng team at kung ano yung mga scoping nun after this training. Alright, so the discussion is divided into 3 sections, starting with the definition, the section 1, which is understanding change planning and control. Then section 2 is preparation for the change planning and control. And then section 3 is the process of change planning and control. Okay? So para po maintindihan natin saan nanggagaling itong requirements na ito, no? Bakit ba natin ito kailangang i-satisfy? Alright? So ito na po yung ating section 1. So if you have questions, once again, you may feel free to type in your question in our chat box. And you may also call the attention of Dr. Marie para po sa mga concerns or if you have insights that you would like to share, please feel free to let us know. Okay? So section 1. What is change planning and control? Yan. So, change. Okay? We're talking about change. Nung ating understanding of the requirements, the very first training, whole day training that we conducted, um, I think that was Tuesday, no? If I'm not mistaken, March 2. Okay? So we discussed the PDCA, no? Nagkaroon tayo ng overview about clause 6.3. And that is actually the center of the discussion for this afternoon, no? So meron tayo ditong in-depth discussion on the requirements on planning of changes and control of changes and the techniques or the tool that we can use to manage the changes and to control them. So let's go back to the requirements under our ISO 9001:2015 clause 6.3. Okay, so this is under the planning clause P of our PDCA. So the title of clause 6.3 is planning of changes. Okay, let me read the standard. When the organization determines the need for changes to QMS, the changes shall be carried out in a planned manner. Okay? So, meaning, meron tayo ditong nabanggit sa ating clause 4.4, no, yung mga changes na pwedeng makaapekto sa ating organization. The organization shall consider the purpose of the change and their potential consequences, the integrity of the QMS, the availability of resources, and the allocation or reallocation of responsibilities and authorities. So ito po yung pinanggagalingan bakit po tayo meron ngayong discussion about change control management. Another requirement, this time, let's go to the do, no? It's found in clause 8.5.6. So 8.5.6, this is the clause for the service provision. Okay, so the title of this clause is control of changes. The organization shall review and control changes for production or service provision. So in our case, it's service provision to the extent necessary to ensure continuing conformity with the requirements. The organization shall retain documented information describing the results of the review of changes, the persons authorizing the change, and any necessary actions arising from the review. So from these requirements, makikita po natin meron tayong mandatory record, no? So before we implement the change in our quality management system, in our service provision, no, in our core processes, okay, we have to make sure that we have undergone planned, we have looked into, we have reviewed, no, we have reviewed our purpose for the change, okay, and there should be a record for that, no? Yung sinasabi nating retained documented information, that is a mandatory record. So if we are to look at that record, it should describe the results of the review of changes. So ibig sabihin, tiningnan na natin yung consequences, yung yung purpose ng change, yung consequence, no? And also, sino yung nag-authorize ng change, okay? At ano yung mga, ano yung actions, no? From the discussion of the review of changes and the person's after the authorization of change, what are the necessary actions that we have to do? Dapat po yun naka-record dun sa ating documented information. Okay, so that's a mandatory record. Kaya very important po na mapag-usapan ito kasi kung halimbawa po meron tayong ginawang change sa ating university at wala po tayong naipakitang documented information or proof that it is done in a planned manner, okay? So, maaari po tayong magkaroon ng non-conformity. Okay, so maliwanag po yung pinanggagalingan natin na clauses. It's found in 6.3, that's the planning. And then for the implementation of the change, that is found in 8.5.6. Okay? So, sabi, ano daw yung planning, why change planning and control? So, bakit natin kailangan pagdaanan yung change planning and control? We all know that change, that process or anything changes over time. Tama po ba? Sabi nga, ang famous nga dyan na quotation, di ba? The only permanent thing in the world is change, no? So nagbabago ang lahat ng bagay. Our process in the university or different factors in our university changes over time. And because there are changes, of course, we have to adapt on those changes, no? Kahit sabihin na natin na na-certify na tayo, masabi natin na we are accredited, meron tayong excellent services, still from time to time there are changes that we are experiencing in our different process, even in the environment, no, of our, or the business environment of our university. Sabi dito, input to process can change anytime that may affect process performance. Thus, our process output or our KPI or the customer satisfaction may also be affected by the change. So, kanina, during the review of our ISO requirements, di po ba namagit natin yung ating PDCA? No? Kung titingnan po natin yung kabuuan ng ating quality management system, yung ating Plan, Do, Check, Act, meron po tayong mga inputs sa ating quality management system. Nandyan po yung ating mga external and internal issues kung saan nandoon yung ating ang ating pong documentation to determine the external and internal issues are PESEL analysis and SWOT analysis. So from the PESEL, okay, and the opportunities and threats of the SWOT, we could say that it changes from time to time, di ba? Kagaya nga po ng na-experience natin ngayon, no? Nung mga nakaraang panahon, wala po tayong pandemic, di po ba? Tapos nung nagkaroon ng changes sa environment, no? Nagkaroon ng mga quarantine, nagkaroon tayo ng limitation when it comes to face-to-face interaction, no? So nagkaroon niya yung mga changes na yan, that affects, those are input, no? And that affects our process, no? And if we fail to manage those kinds of changes, no? Example lang yon, it may affect the performance of our process and can affect the performance of the university as a whole. No, sample lang po 'yun. I know in your mind you are thinking different factors na nakaharap ng ating university, no? At pabago-bago yung mga factors na 'yan. Okay? Pati technology, no, nagbabago-bago din. Lahat ng 'yan may kinalaman sa posibleng maging input sa ating mga proseso, whether that is in our support process or in our core process, no, or sa ating kabuuan, no, sa ating university. Yung mga inputs na 'yan, makakaapekto yan dun sa ating output, no? Makakaapekto yan sa ating achievement ng ating mga KPIs, sa perception ng ating customer, sa kanilang satisfaction, and even dun sa quality ng ating mga services na pinoprovide. Okay? So with change planning and control, we ensure that changes made to the process or our quality management system is controlled. No, I like the statement of our president earlier when he said that control is a beautiful thing. No, control is not actually yung common connotation na parang wala kang magagawa. No, control is you are validating, you are looking at it, you are trying to see kung yan ay magiging effective o hindi. No? Yun yung kagandahan ng control. Eh. Tinitingnan mo yung bawat step para ma-ensure na ang magiging output niya ay tama according to standard. And that is what we want to do. No? Whenever we encounter change, we want to make sure that we control it so that our quality management system will be sustainable, will be able to still achieve its intended outputs. No? And when we say planning, change planning and control, it means from the planning, analysis, decision-making, and approval of changes, yun po yung tinitingnan natin. Ano? Yun yung mga steps na binabantayan natin. Okay? So the objectives of change planning and control are the following. First, to ensure standardization across departments, no, as well as ensures that all necessary parties are informed and that each request for change control are evaluated. So gusto natin, sabi nga natin, di ba, ISO is more on standardization. So gusto natin kahit na the way we handle the changes, dapat pare-parehas, meron pa rin tayong standard way of doing it, no? Meron pa rin tayong sinusundan na guideline. In fact, meron po tayong guideline on change control management, no? Para po pare-parehas tayo ng approach. And dahil nga meron din kayong team, yung team na yon, sila yung nangangalaga para ma-handle po natin yung mga changes sa ating organization, yung mga possible consequences niyan. Kung yan ay merong negative impact, of course, we want to mitigate those negative impacts, or we want to minimize, no, if we cannot really prevent those negative impact from happening. No, we want to make sure na kapag nag-implement tayo ng ating changes, inform po yung lahat ng mga departments that are involved. No, sometimes there are changes, no? Meron tayong mga gustong i-implement na change. And then na-implement na hindi alam ng mga taong involved, no? Nagkakagulatan. We don't like that to happen. We want to make sure that that all parties involved are informed of the change, and that change is evaluated before we even implement it, no? Mas proactive tayo dun sa mga possible na consequences nun. Kasi ang gusto natin with the change, 'di ba? Usually we do changes because we want to improve. But if we fail to handle the change and the negative consequences within that change, baka instead na mag-improve, manganak pa ito ng problema. We don't want that to happen. Okay? Another objective is to ensure recording, and tracking of requests for change control to completion. There are times that we initiate change. Pero kapag walang tao na nag-monitor, no? Monitor, halimbawa, dumaan na yung 1 taon. No? Nung nag-meeting ulit tayo, o nasa na yung napag-usapan natin na magkakaroon tayo ng changes sa ganitong area, or itong specific na topic na ito, meron tayo diyang decision or action na kailangang implement, no? May change dyan. Tapos walang nag-monitor. Ang tendency niyan, naubos na yung panahon, hindi siya na-complete, no? So we want to make sure that if we have talked about changes, if someone initiated a change, makomplete po yan. No? Makita natin hanggang sa matapos yung implementation ng change na yon. Now, we want to record and track the request for change control to completion. Okay? Sayang naman yung idea kung hindi natin siya ma-implement. Okay, we also want to provide reasonable assurance that significant changes are authorized and appropriately tested before being implemented. Okay? So, of course, mahirap mag-implement kung walang approval. Tama po ba? So, gusto natin dumaan ito sa tamang approval para makita din natin kung kasi with the proper approval, meron niyang review, no? And with that, meron din niyang proper allocation ng ating mga budget, no? Yung sinasabi kanina ni President, okay, let me know the resources needed para masupport natin yung ating quality management system. There are changes that really needs resources, no? That's why it has to undergo proper approval, no? So meron tayong mga naka-define diyan na mga approval, no? Mga person to approve our changes. Okay? And not only that, we also need to make sure that before we even implement, kumbaga bago ka mag-mass produce ng change mo, dapat yung iyong prototype, no, na test mo na magiging effective siya. Kasi baka mamaya masyadong maraming resources, masayang, no, kung hindi naman pala siya magiging successful. So ito yung sinasabi nating part ng control that we want to test first the change before we even implement that. Now we evaluate if that change will be effective before the actual implementation. So parang meron tayong test run, no? Next, okay, so yun yung mga objectives ng ating change planning and control. Okay? So gusto natin maging smooth, no? Maging smooth yung ating transition from the time na ma-request hanggang dun sa provision ng resources, communication with different concerned personnel, hanggang sa ma-implement natin at ma-institutionalize natin yung mga naging successful or mga effective, no? Effective na changes. Okay? So the goals of change control planning is to reduce the risks of failure when change is implemented. Again, na-mention ko kanina, no, there are some changes that are very costly. Okay, naalala ko, no, sample ko lang po. Based on my personal experience, when I'm still connected with a manufacturing company, no, one of the masasabi kong change na ito, masasabi ko na hindi dumaan sa planning of change, is yung bumili kami ng isang malaking equipment, no? The objective of that equipment is to increase the efficiency at saka tumaas yung productivity kasi bagong equipment yun, no? So, maganda yung technology ng equipment. Kaso, walang proper communication. So, nung dumating yung makina, okay, galing sa, I think, Taiwan, dumating siya, nung kinommunicate, nung parating na, sinabi, oh, may paparating na makina. So, nung nalaman na mayroong paparating na makina, hindi alam kung sino ang dapat na in charge, no? Sa pag-unload pa lang, ha? So, unloading pa lang ng makina, hindi prepare kasi hindi alam kaya ba to ng aming equipment na mag-handle, yung bang tonnage ng aming lifting equipment, kaya ba itong weight ng makina na ito? Paano ba yung tamang pag-unload? Okay, saan bang position, saan ba itong building ilalagay? Okay? Ano bang mga resources ang kailangan? Ilan ng power requirement, ang mga other utilities na kailangan, no? So in short, instead na ma-implement kaagad itong pag-install ng bagong makina, umabot siya ng kalahating taon. Okay? At dahil doon, no, nasayang yung cost, no? Kasi habang may waiting ka sa manufacturing, meron niyang kaakibat na cost eh. At bukod doon, syempre nagde-depreciate yung makina habang tumatagal. Di ba po ang gadget, habang tumatagal, bumababa ang presyo niyan. Ganon din ang machine, ano? So, with that, without proper planning and control, possible na magkaroon ng failure, yung inaakala mo sana na magkakaroon ng positive impact sa iyong process or sa iyong organization. Without proper planning and control, there's a risk of failure and we don't want that to happen. Okay? Ayaw natin na mag-fail, no? Yung inaasahan natin dapat magiging positive ang benefit nun sa ating organization. Next, the goal of change planning and control is to determine the potential consequences. It can either be positive or negative. No? So sa ating change planning and control later on, makikita ninyo nakadikit pala ito sa ating risk and opportunity management. No? Kasi ito ay change. So yung change na yon can lead to another problem. Posibleng meron siyang kadugtong na problema or pwede rin naman siyang may kadugtong na opportunity. So that's why during our change planning, as early as that stage, we want to assess what are the potential negative impact or what are the potential positive impact that can result from this change. Para doon pa lang, kung negative impact yan, meron ka na kaagad action. No, mas magiging smooth yung iyong implementation. Okay? So, yun po yung ating mga goals in change planning and control. Okay? So, yun po yung dahilan kung bakit kailangan tutukan natin, no, yung mga change na gusto nating ma-implement sa ating organization. Okay? So, let's define change. Okay? Change is defined as the addition, modification, replacement, or removal of the process, method, material, machine, man, environment, or their associated elements. Okay, so addition. Okay, kapag meron kang naidagdag sa iyong proseso, halimbawa, no, halimbawa sa inyong scope ng inyong quality management system. Ngayon ang scope natin is more on yung sa tertiary education natin, ang scope lang natin yung mga undergrads, tama po ba? Yung mga courses offered, yung mga undergrad courses natin. Okay, kung halimbawa nagkaroon ka ng addition sa scope natin which is sinama na natin yung mga graduate courses. That is a change. Okay? And with the addition of graduate courses, it can result to additional process, okay? Or merong additional material, additional method, maaring iba yung pamamaraan sa graduate studies at saka yung undergrad. Okay? Maaari din na may kinalaman sa competency ng ating mga professor. Siyempre, iba rin yung competency kapag kasama na doon yung ating mga graduate courses. Or kung meron pang mga doctoral courses, no? So, syempre, iba rin yun. So, addition. Okay? So, change. Addition of this, sabihin natin yung ating 5 M's, no? Man, machine, method, material, mother nature, or environment, no? So, yun yung ating 4 M's and 1 E of the process. Okay? Or modification. Halimbawa, may nabago natin nga nung nakaraan, di ba? Halimbawa, nag-course offering ka. Nung start na nag-offer ka, ang classes mo for this specific subject, kunwari 5. Okay? Nung natapos na yung enrollment, instead na naging 5, either nagdagdag ka, dahil ang dami ng enrollee, no? Or nagbawas ka. That's a modification, di ba? Okay, replacement or removal. Okay, so yung mga yan yung mga cover ng ating changes. Okay, so maaari po bang magbigay kayo, ano po yung mga possible na changes na merong pwedeng pagdaanan sa ating university? Ano ba yung mga possible changes sa mga proseso sa loob ng ating university or pwede rin maging change pagdating sa ating quality management system? Okay, can anyone give example aside from what I have mentioned? Okay, pwede pong mga online natin, participant, yung may user chat box to answer. Pwede rin sa side ni Ma'am Marie, baka po merong gusto mag-volunteer. Mga example ng changes based on our definition.
Ayan, si Ma'am Mayan. Ito, ayan.
Anyone? Dr. Marie, meron po bang 1 or 2 na gusto diyang mag-volunteer? Example of change based on our definition?
Yes, Ma'am Jen, there's one. Ma'am Winnie.
Thank you,
I
Dr.
think
Marie.
dagdag natin yung sa may university charter, yung
Mhm.
online process,
Okay. So,
special enrollment,
Mhm, mm.
and other processes na kailangan ang online provision.
Alright. Tama po, ma'am. That's a nice example. So with that, um, it can be a modification in the process, no? Kung dati, physical, yung ating enrollment, o kaya naman yung ating mga classroom, ngayon naging online, ano? So that's a nice example. Okay? Modification in our method. So from physical, naging online na yung iba. From our chat box, okay, may nagbigay dito ng example, change in graduate school administration. From a separate unit before, it has been placed now under each college. Yes, that's also another change, no? So, pwedeng masabi natin na modification din yan um, pagdating sa natin organizational chart, no, or yung placement ng ating mga processes, no, or pwedeng responsible person, no, pwede rin sa man yun. Okay, another
Ma'am Jen, meron pa dito si Ma'am Ludrica.
okay, sige po, ma'am.
Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
What about the issuances coming from the Commission on Higher Education in regards to, this is in relation to standard policies and guidelines. I think this is on modification.
Okay.
Modification of an existing curricular program wherein this would actually require changes not only in the process but changes in the program itself. So parang sasama na lahat yung proseso, replacement of subjects, replacement of some other aspects in the curriculum. This is taken as one of the major changes that we encounter in the academe.
That's right. I agree to your example, ma'am, no? So, yung nakita natin doon, yung external trigger natin, let's say the issuance from CHED, okay? So, let's say changes dun sa curriculum na implement. Tama po, it can affect not only the process but also yung material na ginagamit natin. Pwedeng yung method ng ating teaching maapektuhan, yung competency ng taong mag-implement or yung ating mga professors na mag-implement ng curriculum. Depende dun sa laman ng issuance, posible pong maging mag-result sa change, no, sa ating binibigay na services. Okay? Change in organizational structure. Yes, that is also. Kaso lang pagdating kasi sa change in organizational structure, kadalasan hindi natin siya yung directly na ma-manage, 'di ba? Kasi minsan yan na ay top management decision. Although maganda din na before yan pagdaanan ng top management decision, meron din yang subject na sa review. Okay, so that is also, yes, a change in a way. Pero siguro tingnan natin yung scoping niya at baka iba yung pwedeng pagdaan ng proseso niyan kumpara dun sa mga normal changes na na-encounter natin sa ating mga QMS processes. Okay? Another, pwede din po ba yung sa creation of new colleges or restructuring of colleges? Yes po, ma'am. Those are also changes, no? So, pwede siya sa modification, no? So, yun po yung mga sample ng ating changes. So, salamat po dun sa mga nag-inputs. Very important po yung mga participation natin kasi mas nagiging specific po yung ating discussion, mas nako-contextualize natin kapag nakita po natin yung mga specific examples sa inyong university. Okay, so yun po yung ating mga changes, no? Alright. So, further on, tingnan po natin, ito daw yung mga details ng mga nabanggit nating changes. Let's say, for the process, it can include addition, modification, replacement, or removal of process. Okay? So, pwedeng yung binanggit ni ma'am na changes dun sa issuance ni CHED, pwedeng magresulta yan dito sa mga changes sa ating process, either addition, modification, replacement, or removal. Or it can be changes in the method, no, the way we do our, let's say, the way we do our classes. Kanina yung nabanggit natin from face-to-face, naging online. Change in operational procedure, pwedeng tingnan natin ulit yung ating procedure, no? Applicable pa ba yung mga steps na nandun now that we are also implementing our online classes? Change in measurement or monitoring procedure. So, paano na po ba yung exam ngayon, no? Now that we are having our online class. So, meron din po ba tayong posibleng pagbabago sa method, no? Sa ating monitoring and measurements. Okay? It can also include change in verification procedure. Okay, naalala ko nung time na nung ating discussion, yung nabanggit sa risk and opportunity, if I'm not mistaken, nabanggit yung isa nating process, ng isa nating participant, na isa sa mga naging risk is yung hindi nakapag karoon ng evaluation, no? From student to ng evaluation ng student sa professor or sa instructor, no? Knowing that that is one of the way to verify yung ating special process, no? So, tingnan natin yun. Baka meron din tayo makitang change doon, change in verification procedure. Okay? Change in material, okay? Yung ating curriculum na ginagamit, pwede din doon sa let's say yung ating server, no? Machine, okay? Addition of new machine, rehabilitation of existing machine, parameters, man, it can be job redesign. Let's say nagbago yung kanyang job description, nagbago yung qualification, nagbago yung shift, let's say yung schedule. Okay? So dati ang load niya ay yung significant change So halimbawa ang load niya dati, ang tinuturo niya ay mga subjects ng let's say tatlong subjects na puro morning tapos biglang naging gabi yung class na yon. So meron din ba siyang corresponding consequences? Dapat makita natin yan kasi that's part of changes under man. And then if there are significant changes in manning complement, meaning kung dati ang professor natin, let's say 20, tapos biglang dumami or biglang bumaba ng sobra, those are also part of changes under man. Okay, environment, change in the, let's say the actual, yung ating classes, no? Kung dati ang class natin, nakikita natin sila, mas madaling ma-manage. Ngayon na naka-online, di ba? Change yun sa environment ng class. Pwede rin naman na merong changes sa layout ng ating class. Okay, ventilation or the volume or supply of quantity of utility kung ito ay relevant sa ating service, no? Siguro ito it's more on manufacturing, pero sa atin since we are in the learning as a learning institution, baka makaapekto yung classroom setup, yung classroom environment, no? So, pwedeng dun siya papasok. Kung meron tayong changes dun sa environment ng classroom, that would fall under change in the environment. So, yun po yung mga, para mas maging maliwanag lang kung saan mga pwedeng, saan maaaring manggaling yung mga changes na pinag-uusapan natin. Okay? And these are the steps, no, in change, planning, and control process. First is identification of change, followed by evaluation of change, analysis, change control, implementation, and change closure. So you see, each activity po, no, we manage every activity involved in our change hanggang sa magkaroon na po tayo ng closure. Meaning, nakita na natin na effective and we are now to institutionalize the change, no? Meaning, isasama na natin siya sa ating proseso, no? So, yun po yung kabuuan ng ating change, planning, and control process. Okay? So, let's now go to section 2. Any question po so far sa ating section 2? Questions? Questions po. Okay?
Any questions? Any questions from here? Ang wala naman.
May questions po ba, Dr. Marie?
Ang wala naman, Ma'am Jen.
Okay, so let's proceed to section 2. I think sa ating mga online participants, wala ding nag-chat. Okay? So let's now go to section 2, preparation for change, planning, and control. Okay, there are different elements in planning for change. Naalala ninyo kanina, no, yung ating dalawang requirement. We have 6.3, planning of changes, and we have 8.5.6, control of changes. So for the planning of changes, nabanggit dun sa standard yung mga elements, no? First is yung purpose ng change. Ano ba yung dahilan bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng changes? So mamaya tingnan natin yung iba't ibang posibleng dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng changes sa ating mga processes. Next is the potential consequence of our change. Ano ba yung mga impact, whether positive or negative kapag nag-implement tayo ng change. Next is the availability of resources, whether that is financial or non-financial. We have to take a look at our resources para po mas maging effective yung ating change, no? And of course, we have the allocation and reallocation of responsibilities and authorities. We have to know who will be in charge para meron tayong focal person na i-follow up kung ano na yung status ng ating change implementation. Okay, so let's go now to the different purposes of change. Okay, maaring ang dahilan kung bakit kayo nag-initiate ng change ay in terms of quality. No? When we say the purpose of change has something to do with quality, it can lead to improvement of the quality of your process output. Okay, so pwedeng, ano nga ulit definition natin ng quality? No, the fulfillment of the requirements. Okay? So kung halimbawa, sa performance, sa ating survey, halimbawa lang, no, sa ating survey, ang score natin ay 4. Okay? Tapos nagbigay ka ng proposal na magkaroon ng pagbabago in the way we do our process that can lead to higher satisfaction ng ating customer o tataas yung ating rating. So that is a measure of quality, di ba? Yung rating ng ating customer satisfaction survey. So pwedeng kaya ka nag-implement ng change is to improve the quality of your process output. O kung halimbawa dati maraming error yung ating output, okay? O halimbawa mali-mali dun sa mga records, with let's say propose ka ng automation, that automation can result to decrease in error or prevention of error. So, ang reason doon is to improve the quality of your process output, no? Another purpose is in terms of delivery. So, ito naman may kinalaman sa timeliness. So, kung halimbawa dati matagal tayong mag-prepare ng ating mga grades with, let's say, automated na yung ating system sa pag-calculate ng grade, it can shorten the cycle time or the processing time. Therefore, your purpose has something to do with delivery. So, yung una, yung quality. Pangalawa, yung timeliness or yung turnaround time, no, ng delivery ng ating services. Or it can also be related to cost, no, reduction of our operational costs. Okay? So, since hindi naman tayo yung profit organization kasi nasa tayo, di ba? SEU, free education tayo. So, as much as possible, we want to maximize yung mga budget at saka yung resources na meron tayo. So, it is also a good purpose to change is para ma-reduce yung ating mga operational costs. And of course, another one is when it comes to productivity. So not only the quality of our output, but also the effectiveness and efficiency of our process. So pag sinabi naman nating effectiveness, it has something to do with how you achieve your target. Okay, na-achieve mo ba yung iyong mga KPIs, OPCR, IPCR? So in that sense, you're being productive. And not only that, mas marami kang output na napoproduce with the same resources. So that's being efficient, no? So halimbawa, with the implementation of the automation, halimbawa yung sinabi natin sa sample natin, automation ng pag-calculate ng mga grades, halimbawa, no? So with that, mag-i-encode ka lang, tapos after mo mag-encode, meron na siya kaagad na result, meron na siyang calculation ng grade. Kung dati nagagawa mo siya, so delivery, kung dati nagagawa mo siya ng 1 week preparation ng grade, ngayon nagagawa mo na siya ng let's say 2 days or 1 day. Oh, that's an improvement in delivery. When it comes to productivity naman, mas marami kang ibang magagawa kasi mas naging open na yung time mo, no? Hindi lang puro paggawa ng grades, no? So mas madami ka pang nagagawa. So in that sense, mas nagiging efficient, no? Yung process. Okay? So those are the different sample ng purpose ng change. Okay? So pwede rin ang change, ang purpose mo dyan is in compliance to the regulatory requirement, no? Pwede rin 'yon. Or to pwede rin na may kinalaman sa um, to enhance health and safety, okay, of our employees. So, iba-iba yung mga purpose ng change. These are just some of the examples. Okay, ano naman po yung consequence of change? Any change will have always an effect, no, in our process or in the stakeholders of the process, whether that is the customer or that is the process owner. Okay, and that effect can be positive or negative. So when we talk about consequences of change, it can either be direct or indirect. So kapag sinabi mong direct, ito yung kaagad makikita mo, ma-observe mo yung impact or yung effect ng change na yon. Kapag indirect, it will take time before you observe yung impact. Okay, for example lang, no? Bawa, di ba merong mga chemicals na kapag in-intake mo, kunwari mga toxic chemicals, merong mga, pag in-intake mo, alam mo na kaagad na harmful siya kasi sasakit yung tiyan mo, o kaya naman may hilo ka, direct yon, direct effect. Pero there are some toxic chemicals that it takes time. For example, yung mga heavy metals natin, mercury, di ba, pag nakain mo siya, unti-unti nagbabayo-accumulate until 10 years malaman mo, nag-over na siya dun sa kaya ng katawan mo, indirect yon. Okay, ano naman mga sample ng sa ating university? Halimbawa, nag-implement ka ng changes sa iyong curriculum. Yan. Makikita mo ba kaagad yung impact nun? Is it direct or indirect? Sige nga po, can someone share sa experience natin? Halimbawa, nag-implement tayo ng change sa curriculum ng isa nating course. Okay? Will, ano ba yung consequence nun? Is it direct or indirect? Who would like to share sa experience po natin? Kasi kanina yung isa sa sample natin, di ba?
Ayan yung mga alam na
Okay.
lang namin.
Sino po ang gustong mag-share? Anyone from CTE Function Hall? Yun po bang pag-implement ng change sa curriculum, will it have direct effect or indirect
Akala ko kasi
effect?
anik-anik. Natsambahan ko lang na kaldero talaga ang
Good
laman.
afternoon po
Sorry
ulit,
naman,
Ma'am
kaya
Chen.
pala.
Good afternoon po.
Ko tagtay, ma.
Indirect po, in a sense na
Reklamo, pero
pag bagong curriculum kasi, makita mo yung effect na lang pag nag-graduate na siya, nag-take ng board exams because
That's it.
those are the indicators
Mhm.
that we observe as an effect of the change in the curriculum.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing. So, pag indirect yung effect, makikita natin long term, no? Bago mo siya malaman, matagal na. So, halimbawa, natapos na yung 5 taon ng bata dun sa ating university, tapos soon to find out it's not effective, di ba parang nasayang, no? That's why very important that before we implement change, we really need to make sure that it will be effective. No? Kasi kapag ano, halimbawa, kung hindi naging effective, let's say lang, no? Kung hindi naging effective, nasayang yung kanyang time, nasayang yung resources, nasayang yung effort natin, no? Nasayang yung resources ng university, no? Pero kung effective siya, of course, we want to do that. We want as much as, yun ang pinakagusto natin, maging effective yung mga changes natin. Okay? Sabi ni Sir Marvin, ang change daw ng curriculum can be direct or
Kasi
indirect.
taman tong
Okay, Sir Marvin, can you share us, ano po ba yung direct effect ng change in curriculum? Pwede po bang marinig from you, sir?
Sorry naman. Yung sana kung may anik-anik
Pwede
lang
niyo pong
yan, ano ko,
ma-unmute
akala
ang
ko kasi
inyong microphone.
anik-anik.
May handle pa dito sa
I-ano ko, relive ko, madam ha.
Hi, Sir Marvin.
Sos ako ha, sos. Excuse me, mga student.
Okay. Sir Marvin, if you have time po, kindly, kahit po i-type nyo na lang kung ano po yung nabanggit ninyong both. Kasi pag both, di ba, may direct at indirect. So, kanina yung indirect, nabanggit na ni ma'am. How about the direct, no? Sa perspective ni Sir Marvin, para makita din natin. Okay, so maliwanag po yung consequence of change. It can be direct or indirect. Okay, so identify daw po natin yan, no, during our planning. Next is the determination of resources. Okay, so when change is proposed, resources needed to implement must be determined, especially if that requires budget. Okay, kasi kailangan yan ipa-approve pa natin ano, at lagyan natin yan ng allocation. Okay, so it can be financial, okay, yung mga budget na kailangan natin, or non-financial. So pwedeng yung pwedeng time yan, no, na i-allocate ng ating mga personnel dun sa change na yon. Okay, so pwedeng part na ng ating operational expenses yon na kuhanin lang muna natin to implement the change, or it can be an additional budget. Okay, so those are the resources. And as much as possible, kung pwede po nating ilagay yung quantity, kung magkano, rough estimate or kung meron na kayong nakuhang quotation, magandang mailagay na natin as the cost of change para po madali pong maaprubahan yung ating change na i-initiate. Okay? This will aid in sound decision making. Ayun. Let's read first from our chat box from Ma'am Jiao Jiao. So, Miden, sa tingin ko po, ang effect ng changes sa curriculum ay direct po kasi it will affect po the operations. Required additional teachers, retooling maybe of faculty members, or maybe additional facilities. Oh, in that perspective, yes, it could be direct kasi merong mga changes na makikita kaagad. So, when it comes to operation, pwedeng direct yung change. Pero when it comes to the student, pwedeng indirect kasi it will be determined pag nag-graduate sila. Okay, thank you ma'am for sharing. Okay, so nakita po natin ano na meron palang mga changes na pwedeng direct yung kanyang impact, or pwede rin namang indirect, or pwedeng direct lang or pwedeng indirect lang. Okay, depending on the nature of the change. Okay, so let's now go to the roles and responsibilities. Okay, we have to define yung mga roles, who will initiate, who will control, and who will implement the change. Okay? So before moving on, let's read from Sir Marvin. Nag-chat si Sir Marvin, no? The direct effect can be on the immediate utilization of existing resources like buildings, salaries for new lecturers, instructional materials need to carry out learning experiences. So just almost the same as yung insights ni Ma'am Jiao Jiao, no? So thank you, Sir Marvin, for your insights. Okay? So moving on.
Ma'am
So
Jen,
since we have to, yes, ma'am?
ah, meron pang isang from here, from the CPE Function Hall, si Ma'am Lani.
Okay po. Ma'am Lani, good afternoon po.
Ang question ko po, I'm a bit confused with the term direct and indirect, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Para bang looking at it, yung direct po ninyo is, para bang it's, the way I understand it from you, is referring to the time element. Dapat ang direct is immediate, and that indirect would be long-term or remote. Parang in the future pa siya.
Opo,
Like,
opo.
in terms of the curriculum, the change in the curriculum could also have a positive direct effect on the student. Kasi yung sentences niya aligned to the needs of the time. Although that can happen later when he or she would have graduated. Sabi ko, hindi itong direct na term, indirect na term is referring to time.
67,
So,
68.
para bang ang intindi ko nga is, your direct
Oo,
is
na tayo na
immediate,
amin na po sa
while
nung
your indirect is
Oh,
long term.
Hindi kasi
yung
makapagkita
hindi
nagmamadali.
long term, no? Like, it will be in the future
Yan,
pa
working po lahat yung
na,
ilaw.
na effect. Yun lang na ang nakita ko na, kaya direct, indirect. There's always be a direct effect in both. Indirect.
Opo,
Ayan,
opo,
okay.
opo. Tama po ma'am yung understanding ninyo that it's a something to do with time na pag direct, immediate siya. Kapag indirect, future pa. No? Medyo matagal pa bago natin ma-experience or maramdaman yung effect ng change. So, meron din po pala siyang direct effect sa ating students. Just like what you have mentioned. Okay? Thank you ma'am for sharing your insight and I hope na mas naging klaro po no with the explanation ni Ma'am Lani na yung sa direct impact, hindi lang siya pang operational, pwede rin siyang sa student, tapos yung indirect, meron din siyang student. Okay?
Ma'am Jen,
Yes, ma'am?
I have a question still with regard to this direct and indirect effect.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the definition here of direct effect is, as was mentioned, immediate effect referring to time. But if we talk of indirect, it should be the opposite sana of uh, referring to immediate effect. Pero the definition of indirect effect here refers to side effect, which is not referring to time anymore. Kasi side effect or ultimate consequence. Kaya parang hindi sila
Parang hindi sila sa definition. Ultimate consequence, the change is made. Siguro ma'am, medyo dito sa side na to, side effect, confusing siya. Pero yung sa ultimate consequence po kasi, ibig sabihin, ito yung long term niya. Kumbaga, after some time mo pa siya ma-observe yung effect. So, opo, yung side effect, there's a side effect
yung
here.
side effect.
Oo, side effect. So, parang hindi yung mismong process na nag-implement ka ng change yung nagkaroon ng impact, kundi sa ibang proseso. Parang chemical reaction lang, Pero let me just, ma'am, I'll just return to you, ma'am, kung ano yung side effects dito. Parang na-overlook ko yung side effect na phrase dito. Pero pag direct, immediate ma-experience mo kaagad dapat yung effect. Pag indirect, medyo matagal pa bago mo siya ma-experience. No? Ultimate consequence, the change is made. So, yun po yung gusto niyang i-refer. Yung kagaya po nung sa example natin kanina. So, pwedeng medyo matagal pa bago mo ma-experience yung effect. Pero definitely, meron siyang effect. Hindi nga lang siya kaagad-agad ma-experience. I hope na na-answer ko po ma'am yung concern. Hello po.
Ma'am Jen, kasi yung side effect can
Opo,
also
opo.
immediate, kaya yun parang medyo malabo sa akin.
Opo, opo.
Effect supposed to be immediate effect, but there are cases when side effects of certain changes could be immediate.
Immediate. Opo, opo. I understand your concern, ma'am. Sige po. Kung okay lang po, ma'am, babalikan ko kayo, ma'am, doon sa side effect. Kasi hindi ko rin siya actually na-overlook ko din tong side effect na to. Naka-focus ako doon sa ultimate consequence, the change is made.
Sige po, Ma'am Jen.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so we can stick for the meantime do sa definitions natin na immediate at saka yung ultimate. Okay, so babalikan na lang natin yung side effects later on. Okay, so let's now go dito sa ating responsibilities. Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Question po from here.
Yes po.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
We do understand that there are, thank you for the insight of direct and indirect. May ask sana if, kasi the audit team, they usually come to the college and ask about any changes in our whatever changes. And they
Mhm.
usually ask about the changes or the process that we underwent. Sa question ko ngayon sa direct and indirect, anong document o anong statement ang kailangan naming ilagay doon kung ano yung direct effect niya, whatever changes that we're going to change in for instance in the curriculum,
Mhm.
ano kayang document or any statement that we include in the document. For instance,
Hello?
as saan nyo napag-usapan yung changes? Sabihin namin, kasi hindi naman klaro sa amin, sabihin namin pinag-usapan sa faculty meeting. So
Mhm.
may we know the minutes of the meeting, mga ganyan.
Mm.
Pakita namin yung minutes. Ano yung direct effect niya? Are there mga ganon? May mga tanong ba ganon that we include
Hmm,
also in the discussion, in the meeting that would justify that change indeed is necessary?
okay. Sir, okay lang po i-park lang natin ng konti yung answer dun sa question ninyo kasi later on, meron po tayong introduce na um, template for the change control. So, doon po, pwede po natin yung magamit. Although, yung ating pong minutes of the meeting, pwede rin siyang maging objective evidence na na-discuss natin yung changes, pero dapat mailagay natin yung mga yon kung ano yung impact niya. So, it would be organized if you can identify indirect or just simply the consequence. Kasi sa atin naman pong standard, hindi naman po in-specify. Di ba kanina po binasa natin yung requirements? Wala naman siya nakalagay na indirect or indirect. So, ang ang inano lang natin ngayon sa discussion para lang mas maging detalyado, we can classify the consequence whether direct or indirect. But if your organization opted just to use the term consequence instead of direct or indirect pa na may classification, acceptable naman po yun. You just need to tell na lang ano yung impact niya. Pero I think meron tayong form na inintroduce. Tama po ba, Dr. Marie? Di ba meron po tayong change planning and control form?
The truth of the matter is that for change control, we belatedly formed the change control committee. So ngayon lang, late last year lang,
Mhm.
nagkaroon ng, naggawa ng policies or guidelines ang change
Mhm.
control committee. That's why it's only the DCF we've been using, but that's for another purpose. But for
Mm.
change control, we have not used it yet. So
Mm.
uh, if it's possible, maybe a little later, there's a request that you go, if you can try to see the guidelines that
Mm.
have been
Mm.
made by our committee so that pakitingnan na lang kung okay lang or you
Yes,
would like
ma'am,
to
sure.
ano,
Opo,
your
opo.
sige ma'am Jen. So ganun
Sige,
po ang
ma'am.
nangyari sa in terms of the change control.
Okay. Sige po, ma'am. Maganda po ma-revisit natin kung ano yung actual na ginagamit ninyo para makita po natin kung ano pa yung mga improvements na pwede nating i-recommend. Okay po. Sir, mamaya po madaanan natin yung question ninyo. Thank
Okay
you
po.
po.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sige po. Let me just go through this slides, no? Under planning pa rin po tayo, preparation. Okay, so ang nag-initiate po ng change, siya po yung nakakita ng change. So pwede siyang internal or external. So kung external, let's say meron kayong customer, may nag-suggest, no, through our feedback system kung ano yung mga possible changes, no, and those changes nung ni-review natin, pwede pala natin siyang implement, so that's an initiator. Now, it can be an external party or it can be an internal party. Pwede pong yung mismong process owner or pwede ring someone from the other department, no, na hindi siya yung gumagawa ng proseso kundi siya yung interface niya. Okay, so yun po yung mga pwedeng sources ng ating or initiator ng ating change. Next is yung ating change control manager. This person naman is the one who manages or spearhead change from assessment to implementation and closure. So yung change control management or pwede rin sabihin natin change control team leader, okay? Kasi minsan yung manager ang ano is masyadong malawak, ano? Pwede ring by team kasi ito. Okay, change control team leader. Siya naman yung he or she makes sure that the change undergone the proper assessment hanggang sa testing, implementation, and then closure. Okay? Mamaya, pwedeng i-define natin sino ba yung mga pwedeng change control manager or change control team leader. Okay. For the implementer, this is the person who is primarily responsible for the implementation of change. Usually, yung process owner ng process na concern. Okay? For the scope of change, okay, so natapos na tayo sa roles and responsibilities, tingnan naman po natin yung scope. Okay? So dito po i-define natin yung boundary at saka yung application ng change. So kung boundary, pwede po siyang single process, okay? So isang proseso lang yung pwedeng maapektuhan or pwede rin naman po siya na may effect sa multiple processes. Okay? So marami yung involved. Okay? So yun yung boundary. For the application, is it applied inside the organization or outside the organization, let's say dun sa ating mga clients or dun sa ating mga suppliers, no? So, halimbawa, meron kang gustong initiate na change sa iyong mga um, uh, ano ba yung mga sample ng supplier? So, halimbawa, sa mga publication natin, yung mga nag-supply ng publication. So, halimbawa, meron kang mga changes na sa mga machines nila or dun sa kanilang methods o sa kanilang mga facilities. No? So, ang application nun, outside supplier premise. Okay? So, dapat po ma-define din daw natin itong scope. Kasi, um, kapag na-define na natin yung scope, ito din po yung magsasabi kung sino-sino po, no? Or magde-define din ito ng roles and responsibility. So, if your change covers only a single process, the roles are limited to the process owner and change control manager. So, pwedeng yung yung mga persons involved. Okay, kapag single lang yung process na maapektuhan ng change, pwedeng within the department na lang siya. Okay, tapos ano na lang natin, i-report na lang natin doon sa overall, let's say sa university, meron kayong change control team. So, pwedeng within within the department, kung ang scope lang naman ng change is isang process, so pwedeng sa kanya, sila yung mag-implement doon, tapos i-report na lang niya doon sa change control team leader. Pwedeng ganon. Kapag naman ang change is across multiple processes, okay, so ito na yung disciplinary or multi-departmental na yung pwedeng members ng ating change control team na ma-involve dun sa change, no? Kasi dapat well represented yung lahat ng mga process na maapektuhan. Okay? So, depende po sa scope ng change, yung mga persons, roles, and responsibilities na involve. So, mas maliit lang kung ito ay single process, pero kapag across multiple process, definitely, medyo malaki yung team na dapat mag-uusap dyan para lahat ng mga concerned process owners, well represented po sila. Okay? So, yun po yung ating section 2, scope of change. Okay, so, dun po ba ma'am, sa forms na ginagamit ninyo or dun sa inyong guideline, nakadefine na po ba yung preparation ng inyong change request?
Medyo very general po yung mga policies and guidelines na ginawa ng change control team. So, we did not come to the specifics yet. Wala pa po sa
Wala pa po. Sige, ma'am. Any question po sa section 2?
Ma'am Jen, may I ask Sir Richard Inod to elaborate on what they have started so that you can give your
advice or whatever with regard to what they had started?
Sige po.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon, sir.
Actually, in terms of yung sa change sa management, very initial pa lang po yung mga actions na nagawa natin diyan. Actually, wala pang ah, walang wala pa tayo diyan sa change planning and control process. We are still trying to come up with so in other words, yung mga departments ay gumagawa sila ng changes na hindi pa siya properly documented. Kumbaga.
Mhm. Mm. I see, I see. I understand, sir.
So
Okay
what
po.
we're trying to come up with is a change management policy that will really cover up yung uh, kung paano sila mag-report and when would they be doing such change. Bago sila mag-change, dapat maka-report muna and dapat aprobado muna. So,
Mm.
ngayon pa lang po, raw pa lang yung policy na yon, and then we hope na with today's seminar ay makapag-input naman po yung mga members sa kung paano natin ma-improve yung change. Kasi tinitingnan ko dito, kunyari yung mga roles and responsibilities, marami kaming nilagay na parang wala pa or hindi siya dapat nakalagay dito or
Mm.
uh, meron yung mga classifications namin ng change na
Mm.
hindi siya akma or hindi namin malocate doon sa definition natin sa change. So actually yung seminar na to will really make some changes on the change management policy that we currently have in the university.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing. Since this is the last section for our discussion, we will have time to do the workshop later. So from what we have learned mamaya hanggang matapos yung section 3, magkakaroon po tayo, sir, i-apply na natin kaagad dun sa review nung existing na meron na kayo. Para after this workshop or after this webinar, meron na tayong initial na ipapolish na lang later on. Na para fresh pa sa atin yung discussion, pwede nang maglagay ng mga inputs. Okay? So, dun din, matitest din natin kung ano pa yung mga pwede ninyong ilagay aside from dito po sana pag-usapan natin. Kasi for example, dun sa ating purpose, 4 lang po yung nailagay ko dun, pero in fact, marami pang po pwede. And again, nag-iiba-iba din kasi yung purpose na yun, depende dun sa context ng organization. So, pwede pa po nating madagdagan yan. At saka yung initiate mamaya, yung mga initiator, mapapolish pa po natin mamaya. So sa ating section 3, nandun actually yung mas detalyado kung paano natin gagawin yung change planning and control process. Kanina is more on the preparation pa lang tayo. No? So we try to look on the bigger picture, ano ba yung mga kailangan nating ma-identify, i-determine. Pero dito sa change planning and control process, ito na yung step by step talaga. Okay, so mamaya meron pa tayong time for sure para po makapag-workshop tayo at madaanan kung ano na yung initial documents or policy na meron kayo para po after this day, meron po tayong output na for further polishing na lang. Okay, so for our change control process, we have here 6 steps. We have change identification, we have change validation, change analysis, change control, change implementation, and change closure. So yan po yung 6 na steps natin. Okay? So pag binasa niyo po ang standard, okay, again our standard yung ating clause 6.3 and 8.5.6, these are very general requirements. No? Ibig sabihin, ang sasabihin lang, ang mababasa mo lang sa requirement, what are the things that you have to show us. Pero how to do it, it varies from one organization to another. So ito pong ipepresent ko sa inyo, ito po yung how na pinopropose ni Q+. Pero it doesn't mean na ito na yung ultimate how. You can still you can still make revisions based on ano sa tingin ninyo yung mas magiging effective for the university. Kasi I encountered other organizations nung nagbigay ako sa kanila ng proposal na ito, parang ito yung pinaka-basic nila. Tapos from here, nag-revise sila. Nag-revise sila, no? Kasi some of the techniques or some of the tools na madidiscuss natin, maaaring hindi applicable sa ating mga processes na kailangan tingnan natin ano ba yung pinaka-appropriate. Yung iba, find these steps na masyadong complicated, so they simplified. Pero again, ito po yung basic proposal na pwede ninyong maging starting point para meron kayong susundan na parang may framework tayo kung paano i-manage yung ating changes. But you are free to further improve on these steps on what you think will be most applicable and will be most effective for your organization. Okay? So step 1 is the identification of change. So kanina na-mention natin yung mga responsibilities, di ba? So starting with the initiator, that person sees the need for change at siya po yung mag-fill out ng ating change planning and control form. Okay? So let me just go through my files. I-open ko lang po yung aking change planning and control form para po mayroon tayong reference sa ating discussion. So, end ko lang po sandali yung aking screen share para i-open yung isa pang file. Okay, while I'm opening siguro, ma'am, we can have our break kung nandiyan na yung inyong snacks.
Yes, ma'am.
Para po hindi sayang yung waiting time.
Snacks na po, Ma'am Jen. So, can we
Okay,
have-
sige ma'am. So while I'm preparing yung files, pwede na po siguro tayong mag 10-minute break.
Sige po.
Apo, sige ma'am. So let's be back by 3:13 or maybe 3:15 na lang para sakto. Okay? Sige po. Off lang ma'am ako ng video at saka mag-mute lang po ako. Thank you.
Okay, Ma'am Jen.
na maglagay ng consequence. So kahit direct or indirect, okay lang. No? So pwedeng ganito yung approach ninyo, i-classify nyo pa or wala ng classification. Wala naman pong problema. Basta ilagay lang natin yung consequence ng change. Okay? So yun na yung mga information. Well, let's go back to our slides. Another information na kailangan niyang isulat is yung scope of change, okay, yung ating boundary, whether that is a single process or multi-process, the resources needed, the prioritization of change, classification of change, and review and approval matrix. Okay, puntahan lang muna natin yung ating form again. So, dito sa ating form, still si initiator, no? Lalagay niya yung effect ng change. So, sabi niya dito, it can reduce complaints from the employees because of the erroneous payroll, no? And reduce unnecessary time spent due to payroll rework. So, dahil may complaint, definitely magre-rework siya. So, that will takes time, di ba? So, para mabawasan daw yun, mas maging mabilis. Okay, ang preparation. Next, the scope of change. So, ito, isang process lang siya, payroll process. So, specify natin doon. Kung marami yung mga processes na pwedeng maapektuhan, dapat nakasulat yung lahat ng processes. And then, ano yung resources na kailangan? Is it financial or non-financial? If meron kang budget na kailangang i-request at i-allocate for that specific change, then you have to as much as possible, quantify the financial resources. So, dapat lagyan nyo siya ng amount, no? Usually naman kapag nag-initiate tayo ng change, more or less, may idea na tayo kung magkano, di ba? Parang nagkakaroon na tayo ng initial survey. So, para mas mabilis siya ma-approbahan later on, dapat meron ka na ring cost. Kasi ang kasunod na tanong dyan ng mag-a-approve, magkano? Di ba? Magkano? Okay? So, ito po yung hanggang resources. Meron din siyang ilalagay na classification and prioritization. So, i-discuss natin yan. Ano-ano ba yung mga under ng classification of change and prioritization of change? So, going back to our slide. Yung sa ating prioritization ng change, pwede pong kayo ang mag-define. No? Sample definitions lang po natin ito. No? Pwede nyo i-adapt itong definition na to. Pwede nyo rin pong i-define pa based dun sa context ng ating university. So, pag sinabi nating emergency, so ang mga factors na pwede nyo i-consider sa pag-define nito in terms of yung time na requirement no sa pag implement ng change. Okay? Halimbawa, sinabi natin dapat itong change na ito kailangan magawa siya kaagad. Emergency yon. Kapag ang action mo kailangan magawa mo within 48 hours, high. Medium, if the action can be done in 5 days, or low, action done based on the specified completion date. So, ibig sabihin, pag low, pwede pa siyang mag-antay. Kapag emergency, pwede nyo i-considera yung impact nun. Ano? Kapag halimbawa, sobrang laki ng impact na hindi mo siya pwedeng i-delay, so pwede mo siyang i-classify as emergency. Kapag pwede siyang i-delay hanggang 48 hours, then that's high. Kapag pwede siyang mag-antay within 5 days, that's medium. Okay? Or depending on your university policy, kung meron kayong mga ganun ang naon ng classification. No? Or pwede rin kayong mag-define. Okay? So, pwede nyo pong laruin yung definition nito, no? Emergency, high, medium, or low. Ang gusto lang po natin, at least may idea tayo, ano ba yung priority natin? Para hindi naman lahat ng change sabay-sabay ipaprioritize, no? So, mayroon ka pa ding criteria. Okay? Emergency, high, medium, or low. Pagdating naman po sa classification ng change, so meron din tayong mga iba't ibang pwedeng sundan. Okay, meron tayong tinatawag na standard change. Okay, these are minimal changes usually pertaining to change in document. So kung halimbawa, ang babaguhin mo lang ay mga documentation mo Okay? Walang cost. Pakidagdagan na lang po yung notes, no? Dapat nakalagay dito, no cost, okay, to effect the change. So, ibig sabihin, wala kang gagastusin. Time needed to effect change is short. Okay? So, kasi nga documents lang yung babaguhin. Therefore, ang susundan mo lang dito, yung document change procedure. So, yung binanggit kanina ni Dr. Marie na yung existing natin, ginagamit lang natin yung DCF. Kung ang change mo ay papasok sa standard classification, DCF lang talaga yon. Kasi ang involved lang is yung mga documents. Okay? Another classification, minor change. This change requires observation. Okay, ibig sabihin, titingnan mo kung um, uh, titingnan mo yung effect, no, dun sa iyong practices, okay, sa iyong actual implementation, observe through observation, or pwede ring classification mo ng minor change kapag meron siyang involved na cost. Okay? So, ang kadalasang approach na pwede ninyong gawin dito, di ba meron tayong classification, gawa kayo ng criteria. Pwedeng ang criteria ninyo in terms of the cost involved. Okay? Pwedeng yun yung magsasabi ng classification, depende sa cost. Or pwede ring sa ease of implementation. Or pwede rin dun sa gaano katagal ma-experience yung effect. Okay? So, pwede kayo actually mag-devise kung ano yung para mas madali ninyong malaman kung saan siya papasok na classification. Pero itong standard, kadalasan kapag ang involved lang, procedure. So wala yung cost, no? Walang cost. Tapos mabilis mo lang, pwedeng within the day, matapos mo na yung change kasi nga documentation, standard yun. Pero pagdating sa minor, significant, at saka major change, pwedeng in terms of costs, in terms of the effect, in terms of the ease of implementation, at saka in terms of kung gaano ka daling makita kung magiging effective or hindi. Kasi itong first na nakasulat dito, change may require process validation. So ito yung pinaka criteria mo that will tell kung magiging effective o hindi yung iyong process, yung iyong change. Okay? So, kung halimbawa, mabilis mong ma-detect kung effective siya o hindi, through observation lang, it is a minor change. Kung ang ano mo naman, ang change mo ay kailangan pa na meron kang data gathering, okay? At yung data gathering na yun, kailangan mo pang i-analyze. So, isa sa criteria is yung validation tool na data gathering, significant change siya. Major change kapag meron ka pang kailangan na, let's say, pilot testing. Yan. So, kapag yung change daw nagre-require ng pilot testing, pwede mo siyang i-consider na major change according to this example. Okay, so that's one area. Another na pwede mong tingnan in terms of cost. So, halimbawa, cost involved is 1,000 to 5,000. So that's minor. Kung cost involved requires minimal investment. So ano ba yung minimal investment para sa university? Sabihin natin 5,000 to 50,000. So significant change yun. Kapag ang cost involved ay more than 50,000, sabihin natin significant investment, that is a major change. Okay? Kasi ito nakalagay, no, subjective yung significant, minimal. So, kayo mag-define. Pwede rin ganon. Okay? Another criteria na pwede nyo tingnan yung gano'ng katagal ma-experience yung effect. Okay? Kung minor change, sabi dito, time to effect change does not exceed 2 weeks. Okay? Time to effect change. Sorry, this is more on the implementation. Gaano ka, yung ease of implementation. So kung halimbawa, kaya mo matapos yung change within 2 weeks, so pwede siyang minor. Kapag yung time needed to implement the change exceeds 1 month, 2 weeks to 1 month, that's significant. Kung halimbawa matagal yung implementation niya, more than 1 month, that's major. So, pwedeng yun yung mga factors na titingnan ninyo sa classification. Mag-define po kayo ng classification ninyo. Okay? Kasi, yung classification at saka yung prioritization, yun po yung gagamitin ninyo kung sino yung mga dapat nating i-implement kaagad, no? So, kung halimbawa masyadong marami yung changes, yung classification at saka yung prioritization, okay? Yun po yung titingnan ninyo para masabi kung sino yung dapat nating unahin. Okay? So again, kayo po yung may freedom na maglagay kung ano yung definition ninyo ng minor, significant, at saka major. Dapat yung applicable sa university. Okay? So, dito sa ating form, puntahan lang natin sa form natin ulit. So, si initiator, knowing yung definition ng major, significant, minor, classification, at saka yung prioritization natin. So, pwede pong siya na yung maglagay dito, no? Classification and change is significant. So, hindi na nilagay yung standard kasi hindi nagagana tong form na to kapag standard yung change. Ang magiging documented information mo ngayon dun sa changes ng document is the DCF. Kapag minor, significant, or major, yung classification mo, doon mo lang gagamitin tong form na ito, yung change control, change planning and control form. Okay? Then, for the prioritization, dito mo rin makikita yung high, medium, or low. So, sabi niya dito low kasi can wait naman daw itong ating change na implement, which is yung acquisition of new payroll software. Okay? So, pag natapos na hanggang prioritization ng change, ipapasa na ngayon yan dun sa validation. Okay? So, etong nabanggit kanina ni Sir Richard, sino ba yung mga roles and responsibilities sa pagpaprocess ng ating changes? So, pwede nyo po yan, Sir, i-define. Halimbawa, ang scope lang ng change ay within the process or within the department, pwedeng iba yung mga nakalagay na tao dito. Whereas kung yan ay multidisciplinary, so pwedeng iba din yung members. Pwede kayong mag-define. Okay? So, dito po, ang pinaka-change control team leader nila is the finance head. Okay? At ang change control team nila ay itong tatlong ito, no? Lopez, IT head, supplier representative, and then the implementer is the process owner ng payroll. Okay? So, pagdating ngayon, pag natapos na itong pag-initiate, ang sunod na step is change validation. Okay? Puntahan natin yung ating slide ulit. Okay. So, pag nag-prepare na niya yung form, yung letter A, the initiator submits the request for change planning control to change control manager. Okay, so kung sino yung i-define ninyo na approver niya, no? Then the change control manager performs the initial evaluation. Pwedeng ito yung mga consideration ni change control manager para i-approve or i-disapprove niya yung change. Pwedeng in terms of impact to business, in terms of impact to stakeholder, or in terms of risks associated with change. Okay? So, ang purpose ng step 2, yung validation, is to approve or reject the change request. Kumbaga, bago pa dumaan sa mga susunod na proseso, parang meron ka ng na initial na assessment, no? So, ang ginagawa 'yun sa validation. Okay, so dito sa ating form, okay, so ang sinet nilang mag-approve ay ang president. So, pwedeng nagbigay sila ng roles and responsibility depende sa classification ng change at depende sa priority. Halimbawa, itong classification niya ay significant dahil ang taas ng iyong cost, di ba, 100,000. So, halimbawa, significant kasi yung cost niya ay significant investment yung nakalagay doon. Nag-define siya ng 100,000 up. Let's say, kapag significant change ang mag-a-approve dapat president level, so kaya siya yung nandito. So, sa set ninyo ng roles and responsibility, pwedeng in terms of classification of change at saka priority ng change. Okay? So, considering yung mga factors na nabanggit natin kanina, yung impact nun sa ating organization, impact sa stakeholders, yung mga pwedeng risk related to the change na na-propose, pwedeng dun ngayon ilalagay kung approve o disapprove yung ating change. Kapag na-approve yung change, definitely, pupunta siya sa next step, yung change analysis. Okay? Yung ibang organization na na-encounter ko, ginagawa nila, bago validation, nag-change analysis muna sila para pagdating dun sa approval, nakonsidera na yung lahat ng mga possible risks. Okay? Kasi sa change analysis, titingnan mo ngayon dito kung ano yung mga risks involved kapag mag implement ka ng change. Okay, so punta lang ulit tayo sa slide. Pasensya na po palipat-lipat ako ng slide ng screen. Stop share. So, tapos na tayo sa validation na approve siya, no? So, analysis naman tayo. The change control team performs a detailed risk assessment. So, gagamitin natin yung ating risk assessment form. Di po ba nung nag-conduct tayo ng training, nung yung first batch, nadaanan natin yung inyong risk and opportunity framework, di ba po? So, yung risk assessment nyo doon, gagamitin nyo rin siya sa pag-conduct ng analysis dito sa ating change planning and control. So, titingnan ninyo yung severity in terms of customer, in terms of business operation, in terms of the business operation, financial, image, at saka legal. Okay, so may grade kayo doon. Imumultiply nyo sa rate ng likelihood of occurrence at saka sa existing control measure. Kung halimbawa na masyadong malaki yung risks, no? Masyadong malaki yung impact ng risk, significant yung lumabas, dapat meron ka ding action plan to address that significant risk if you really want to push through with the change. Kasi kung halimbawa sobrang laki nung risk involved, so mapapaisip ka ngayon kung itutuloy mo pa yung change, di ba? Pero kung necessary talaga yung change, you have to manage the risk. Okay? So you have to gather the necessary data and information to make the risk assessment more objective. Again, since we don't like to experience failure during the actual implementation of our change, we have to make sure na makapture po natin yung mga potential problem associated dun sa change na i-implement po natin. Okay? So kung acceptable, no problem, you can now proceed to your test and test control. Kung halimbawa naman na not acceptable, meaning significant yung risk mo, again, you have to come up with action plan if you really want to push through and make sure na ma-implement po yung action plan na yon. Ideally, ma-implement yung action plan prior to the risks. Pero kung yung risk na yon ay naka-embed sa implementation ng iyong change, make sure na ma-implement po natin yung risk treatment plan accordingly. Okay? So, dito po sa ating sample, so may attachment po ito na risk assessment table, na po. So i-identify mo ngayon ano yung risk kapag nag-implement ka nung payroll system. Sabi dito, incompatibility of the new software with the other current system. So ibig sabihin, kung meron ng ibang ina-adapt na system or software yung ating organization, possible na hindi mo siya pwedeng emerge doon kasi incompatible siya. Okay? So, nung nag-risk assessment sila, ang lumabas yung severity times likelihood times existing control measure 5. Therefore, that is negligible. Kaya, they can proceed na kaagad dun sa ating next step. Okay? So, significant risk, yes or no, lalagay mo lang dito not significant. And then, may attachment ka na risk assessment table. Okay? So, this change analysis is necessary if your change is under significant or major, no? Kapag standard or minor, ibig sabihin hindi naman ganun kalaki yung impact nun sa ating operation, kahit hindi ka na mag-change analysis. O, may nakanote po dito, no? Change analysis, no need if the classification of change is standard or minor. Okay? So, kaya importante po na meron tayong klarong definition sa classification ng change natin. Okay. So, next, sa change test or control na po tayo. So, punta muna tayo sa ating slide. Step 4, test or control. Okay, so tapos na tayo sa ating analysis. Test and control refers to the series of activities needed in order to evaluate if the proposed change is feasible based on the needs and requirements of the stakeholders. Any question po? May narinig po akong nagsalita? Meron po ba tayong tanong? Okay, so mukhang ano lang, may nag-unmute. Okay. Kung meron pong tanong, please feel free to type in our chat box or call the attention of Ma'am Marie para po ma-address yung inyong concern. Okay, so dito po sa test control, ito po yung parang pilot testing na gagawin natin. Kumbaga, ito yung initial way to detect kung effective or hindi yung ating change. Kung magiging effective siya, then tsaka natin ipupush yung ating change, no? Doon natin siya i-recommend. Okay, so nakita natin yung step, di ba? Meron kang proposal, inaprubahan siya, titingnan mo yung risk assessment niya, kung ano yung mga kailangan mo i-manage na risk. Pag manageable na yung mga risk mo, okay, tsaka ka ngayon magte-test and control. So, meron po dito mga sample na mga test and control levels. Okay, so pwede pong i-simplify ninyo yung test and control ninyo, depende po sa klase ng change, no? So, ito po, may sinasabi ditong level 1. So, yung level 1, observation, ang mga tools daw po na ginagamit dyan, yung mga simple statistical tools like from the collection of data, you will try to graph, okay, chart, or meron kang ano lang, pwedeng naka-pie chart, naka-line, yung line graph natin, makita mo lang yung relationships, madali mo makita yung trends, no? So, halimbawa, ano ba yung mga, halimbawa dito sa ating software na example. So, pwedeng ang ano nito is nasa experimentation siya. Pwedeng actual pilot run, tapos sa pilot run, i-analyze, mabilis ba, maayos ba, na-capture ba yung lahat ng data, no? Kasi kapag observation, konti lang yung mga factors na iko-considera mo, pwedeng two-dimensional lang yung factors, titingnan mo yung trends para masabi mo na effective or hindi effective yung iyong change, no? So, ano ba yung mga sample nito? Halimbawa, magpapalit ka ng mga ilaw. Papalit ka ng mga ilaw sa iyong classroom. So, from yung normal na ilaw, gagawin mo siyang LED. Okay, so isa sa mga benefits nun, yung isa sa mga purpose nun, halimbawa is to reduce the operational cost kasi malaki yung kuryente na nakakain ng ilaw. So para masabi mo kung effective o hindi yung iyong pagpapalit ng mga ilaw mo to LED, so gagawin mo, i-observe mo, gather ka ng data, i-on mo siya, let's say for 2 days, i-on mo, tapos i-observe mo kung merong changes dun sa electricity consumption. No? So, that can be through observation. Simple lang. Kasi yung mga factors na kailangan mong tingnan, ano lang siya, no? Pwedeng dalawa lang yun, so madali siyang i-graph. Kapag meron ng, habang dumadami yung mga factors that affects your change, doon na nagkakaroon ng iba't iba, mas mataas pang level, yung correlation at saka yung experimentation. Again, these are just examples. So, meron akong isang organization na na-encounter. Ang ginawa lang nila, through observation lang lahat. No, again, depende kasi yun sa sa klase ng inyong services na ino-offer. Siguro sa manufacturing, kailangan ng mga ganito. Or kung halimbawa, software developer ka, kailangan ng mga ganito o mga technology related to software, baka sa level na may ganyan. Pero halimbawa sa inyo, curriculum, paano nyo ba tinitest kung magiging effective siya? Pwede kang may initial pilot run, di ba? Meron kang pilot testing. So, dun sa pilot testing na yon, dun mo makikita kung ano yung response ng mga estudyante, kung paano siya, gaano ba yung pag-i-implement, no? So, nag-iiba-iba yung test and control. Depende dun sa nature nung change. Ang bottom line lang, meron ka lang pamamaraan para i-check kung magiging effective yung change na i-implement mo. Yun lang siya, no? So, etong mga nakita nating examples, ito yung mga available na methods. Pero bukod dito, pwede rin po kayong mag-inject ng iba pang pamamaraan na mas applicable sa inyo. Okay? So, dito din po sa ating test and control, meron din po tayong i-create ng mga document dito, like yung mga checklist na kailangan nating gagamitin. Okay? Kung halimbawa, sino ba yung mga participants natin, mga scenarios, paano natin sa execute. So, yung plan kung paano natin gagawin yung ating testing and control. Okay? And then, after execute yung test and control, we have to make sure na meron tayong conclusion and recommendation. Okay? So, yung conclusion and recommendation na yun, i-forward natin yan doon sa manager. So, punta ulit tayo sa ating form. So, doon sa ating example, ang ginamit niyang test is yung correlation. So, ito yung details ng kanyang ginawang activity. So, sa form natin, meron din tayo ditong space para ilagay natin yung steps no, ng ating test or control. Okay, ask the software provider to allow company for 30-day trial in order for the company to evaluate the appropriateness and effectiveness of the software and conduct a correlation analysis by conducting 10 successive trials in the use of the software. So, nag-pilot test run siya. Then, after the implementation of this, magkaroon na ng result. So, let's say, meron siyang additional information, no? Meron siyang mga attachment, documentation ng actual na implementation. So, from there, doon siya nagawa ng kanyang recommendation. Okay? So, pwede po kayong maglagay dyan ng tick box, pwede rin naman niyang open. So, usually, we utilize tick box para lang mas mabilis magbigay ng information yung mag-fill out. Pero pwede rin naman po yung walang tick box, no? So, pwedeng siya na yung maglagay doon, magsulat ng kanyang actual na recommendation based dun sa result. Okay? So, dito, test result show change is acceptable. Tapos, ilalagay lang kailan yung test, kailan ginawa yung test or control. Sorry, this should be test or control. Okay? So, yan po yung ating letter D. Okay? And then, lastly, we have change implementation. Okay. Punta muna tayo sa ating slide. So, sa ating implementation, dapat meron din tayong mga ipe-prepare kung paano yung ating magiging implementation, ano, para mas maging smooth, okay, yung ating pag-implement ng change. So, kasama dito sa pwede nating i-prepare yung ating communication plan, yung training plan if there's a need na i-transfer yung knowledge from the one who tested the change papunta doon sa mag-i-implement, okay? Halimbawa, from the software software provider papunta dun sa mismong gagamit ng software sa ating organization. So, kailangan dun ng training. Kung necessary lang, gawa ng training plan. And then, kung merong mga resources na kailangan, so gagawa ka din ng support plan. Okay? So, the manager, kung sino, or depende sa scope no, ng work, doon natin masiset kung sino yung mag implement. Okay, we have to review all the work against the requirements and the schedule. So, di ba po dun sa ating plan, meron tayo yung communication plan, training plan, tapos meron din tayo kaninang ginawang risk assessment plan. So, kung meron niya mga treatment plans na kailangang i-implement, dapat din po yun, i-check natin during the actual implementation. Okay? And then, titingnan pa rin natin yung test plan and checklist. Titingnan natin kung during implementation, halos parehas lang ba yung results nila. Okay? So, after nito, nag-implement na tayo. So, dun sa implementation, definitely, malalaman na natin kung subject na siya for pwede na siyang institutionalize. No? Pwede mo na ba siyang i-embed talaga dun sa process. Okay? Kasi kapag pwede na siyang i-embed dun sa process, ito na yung ating last step, closure. Okay? The team and the change control manager, okay, and initiator and or process owner confirm version control with initiator. We have to review all the necessary documentation and finalize and validate, okay, the yung ating form. Okay? So, puntahan natin. Ito na yung pipirmahan lang yung closure para yun yung katibayan na na-execute na yung lahat ng nasa plan natin. Okay? So, during implementation, ito yung mga ipe-prepare. Target date ng implementation, the communication details, who will communicate, whom to communicate. Okay? Ito yung endorsements, training plans, and then change closure. Okay? So, dito lang yung pinaka conclusion mo. Kung effective ba yung change. Okay? So, after ng test at saka ng after ng implementation. Effective ba yung change? Tapos nagawa na ba yung lahat ng mga kailangang baguhin sa documentation? So kapag natapos na yon, close na yung change mo, pipirma na kung sino yung mga nag-implement at saka yung change control manager. So with this, makikita natin walang hanging na mga initiated changes. No? Ang gusto kasi natin, kung talagang makakapag-benefit yung change na yan, we have to push through with the implementation. Okay, kaya hanggang dun tayo sa change closure. Okay? So that completes our change planning and control process. Okay, so gusto kasi natin, ma-handle natin ng maayos yung mga ideas ng changes, no? So hindi lang basta makapag-isip ng change, push na tayo kaagad. So, dapat tingnan natin ano yung risk related to that, ano ba yung mga resources related to that, yan ba ay talagang magiging effective, no? Kapag ba in-implement natin, na-involve ba natin yung lahat ng mga personnel involved hanggang sa ma-close na natin yung request, yung idea, no? Yung documented idea natin. Okay? So again, dun sa mga present ko po sa inyo na pamamaraan, pwede po yan yung maging initial na basihan natin, tapos i-develop nyo na lang po siya, i-contextualize, i-revise, base dun sa proseso sa university. Okay? So tayo din po yung mag-define nung type ng change, mag-define ng priority, at saka mag-define po nung ating classification ng change. Okay? I think this is the last slide for this presentation. There is nothing permanent in this world but change. Kaya kailangan maging adaptive tayo sa change at ma-manage natin ang mga changes na ito para ang ating quality management system ay maging sustainable. Okay? Any questions? Questions? Ipakita ko lang, mabilis lang, yung sample guideline. Okay, so based sa ating pinag-usapan, meron na din ditong naka-ready na guideline. So, pwede nyo itong maging reference, tapos i-develop nyo na lang sa Richard para mas maging fit sa university. Okay, so nakalagay po dito yung ating mga definitions, okay, nung mga responsibilities. Tapos yung ating types of change, ito yung nasa handouts natin. Yung purpose, effects, lakihan ko ng konti, sorry. Yan, effects, scope, okay, the resources, and then the classification. So ito maganda i-revisit ninyo base sa konteksto ng university. And then the prioritization. Then from there, dito na yung mga steps natin. Okay? So, identification, validation, analysis, test or control. Then we have the implementation and the closure. Okay? So, kasama nitong guidelines na ito, yung form na pinakita ko sa inyo. I can send this, siguro isend ko na lang dito sa chat box, Ma'am Marie, or do you prefer na i-email ko na lang po? Ma'am Marie?
Lang, please.
Email ko na lang po ba or i-share ko na lang dito sa chat box natin?
Is everybody able to use this one, or would you like email? Email na lang daw.
Sige po. Sa inyo ko na lang po, ma'am, sa OQAA email, tapos kayo na lang po, ma'am, yung mag-share sa kanila sa inyong Google Sheet. Ano po? Okay. Any question po? Questions?
Any questions? Ma'am Jen, can I start? I have some
Sige, ma'am.
questions. First question, this is with regard to the changes that have taken place in our university since we had new management. No? What happens, for example, if management would want to effect changes immediately and would not pass through all of this that we have taken up? Is this going to affect our processes? That's the first question. Like Ma'am Jen, to answer first my first question, kasi I guess I have 4 questions.
Okay, sige ma'am. Sa first question po natin, pwede po nating i-define dun sa ating policy kung ano po yung pwedeng exemption ng ating process on planning, change, planning, and control. Pwede po nating lagyan dun ng exemption. Let's say, kagaya ng mga ganun na hindi natin talaga makakontrol yung top management kasi they have the discretion pa din kung ano yung mga immediate na kailangan nating gawing changes. Then, pwede po nating ilagay sa policy na kung yan ay galing sa top management, pwede pong hindi siya masubject dun sa ating guidelines. Pwede po yun. Okay, basta maliwanag lang po yung criteria. Kasi again, pag binasa natin yung requirements ng standard, wala pong nakasulat kung paano natin siya i-handle. So, pwede po tayong mag-define. Okay, mag-define dun sa kung ano yung gusto nating sundan sa university. So, that's one thing po. I hope na-answer po, ma'am, yung concern. So, i-define po yan sa policy na pwedeng kapag direct na galing sa top management, pwedeng hindi na siya subject dun sa ating process and control as long as it is documented na order talaga yon ng top management. So, yun yung ipapakita ninyo. Ano po?
Okay.
Yes, second question po.
Yes, because nga it's inevitable that there are cases where top management has to make changes immediately, and it's their prerogative nga. And then another is what happens to changes that have already been effected with the not only with the new management, but since last time, but we didn't make use of this because from the last trainings that we had before, parang pahapyaw lang kasi itong topic na ito noon. So we were not really able to make use of this. So what happens now with the changes that have already been effected and we didn't use this?
Pwede, ma'am, ang gawin po natin, i-call out na lang po ng ating internal quality auditors during internal audit na hindi po na-document yung change as required by the standard. So padaanin na lang po natin siya as non-conformity and then sagutan natin siya ng corrective action na kailan yung start ng implementation ninyo ng guideline na ito, yung policy na pino-formulate ng ating change control team. So ganun na lang po yung answer natin sa corrective action. So with that, hindi nyo na po kailangang i-trace or backtrack yung lahat ng mga nangyaring changes tapos mag-prepare ng ganitong form. So lahat ng po na yon, na-cover na yun ng non-conformity, pero starting dun sa nag-date ka sa corrective action na magkakaroon ka na ng implementation ng guidelines and policies ng change control team, dapat from that date on, hindi na mangyayari yung undocumented change. Okay po?
Noted, Admin.
Mm-mm.
Yes, okay, noted. Another is we have to see the office of our VPs from the last ISO that we had. They are
Mhm.
not process owners, but
Mm-mm.
there are many and numerous cases where they are the ones who effect changes. So would this mean that by this time, we should also make their offices or them as process owners? Kasi nga, there was a suggestion before na hindi na sila isasali sa mga processes noon kaya natanggal yung OPPA, etc. But then
Mm-mm.
from experiences and also from this, we can see how important the role of these offices are in terms of our TMS processes.
Mm-mm.
Another process of change. So kailangan namin isali ito sa change control management.
Opo. Pwede ma'am, padaanin nyo na lang siya as guideline na lang? Or gusto nyo ba siyang gawing isang procedure? Kasi pag ginawa nyo siyang isang procedure sa framework ng ating documentation, kailangan meron siyang set ng SIPOC, risk and opportunity management, at saka KPIs. Pero kapag ginawa mo lang siyang guideline na nakalink dun sa iyong pwedeng QMS planning, strategic planning, kasi changes yun, no? Pwede maka-apekto sa organization. Pwede pong i-express nyo na lang siya through policy or guideline, tapos dun na lang nakalink yung mga, mga forms, no? So, that's one option. Or, express mo siya as a procedure para yun yung susundan ng team. Pwede rin po yun. Tapos, ilagay mo siya under review and improvement na lang po.
Sige, Ma'am Jan. We will talk about this later with the concerned process. My other question is, kasi iba-iba naman yung offices na involved dito. And as of now, we have a change control management committee na if I'm going to look at it now, it's very small. It will not be able to encompass all the different that are in the MS. So would suggest that we expand the change control management team so that the control team leaders and also the change control managers will be able now to decide according to their respective sectors. Kasi kung iisa ang ang mag-head nito at siyang magsasign lahat, hindi naman niya sakop at hindi naman niya alam lahat ng mga proseso.
Tama po.
So would you suggest that we would expand this na lang to several sectors?
Yes, I suggest ma'am, pwede po tayong mag-create ng isang centralized team. Tapos yung isang centralized team po, well represented from different sectors. Tapos yung representative ng sector na yon, siya lang yung in charge na masundan talaga yung procedure or guideline or policy ninyo sa change control dun sa kanyang sector. Tapos, ang mangyayari na lang po, di ba meron tayong centralized na change control team. Tapos meron tayong per sector. So si sector representative, siya na lang yung magfo-forward nung accomplished or yung documented information ng change control planning. Change planning and control dun sa ating central team. Para ang mangyayari, ma'am, meron pa rin tayong centralized na recording. Kung gusto lang ninyo, no, para at least alam pa din ng ating pinaka-team leader kung ano yung lahat ng nangyari. Pero hindi na siya involved dun sa decision making nun. Kung halimbawa sector lang naman yung concern doon, so pwedeng yung sector na yun yung mag-process ng change, magbigay lang siya ng copy dun sa ating change control team para lang for the information. Pwedeng ganon. Or pwedeng wag na rin, naka-decentralize yung iyong record keeping, pwede rin naman. Basta lang po, nakaspecify yan doon sa inyong policy or guideline.
Because I can see the scenario that's going to happen if it would not be like this, because syempre we might be stepping on the decision making of our top management also, no? It's the change control team leaders who will be doing this. So I guess it will have to be changed, and this change that will take place will also need a change control form.
Opo, tama ma'am. So, pwede po yun ma'am, i-revisit natin yung composition ng team, depending dun sa scope ng change, para pati dun sa approval, tsaka yung mga persons in charge hanggang dun sa closure, ma-define po natin ng maigi, no? Properly defined na, of course, wala rin naman tayong nako-compromise na or na sasagasaan ng mga responsibility. So again, align pa din dun sa ating organizational structure at saka dun sa mga existing policies natin, yung gagawin nating change control policy or guideline. Pwede nyo naman po yun, ma'am, i-contextualize. Wala naman pong problema sa ISO. Basta importante, nandun lang po yung napag-usapan natin na na-identify yung purpose ng change, consequence, responsibilities, yung ating resources, at saka po yung persons na nag-authorize ng change. Dapat lang documented yung mga yun.
Okay, Ma'am Jen. So lastly, this will also need changes in our flow charts in case na may changes sa processes.
Tama po. So, kapag ma'am, merong changes sa processes, aside from your change control, change planning and control form, dapat mag-fill out ka din ng DCF.
Right.
Opo.
So, yeah. So, I would wish that our top management and especially the deans, directors of the academic sector, the directors and of the RME and also from the admin are attending now because they should really be aware of all of this. Otherwise, we will still have to cascade this down to them.
Opo. Ang maganda rin po dyan, ma'am, kung halimbawa na finalize na natin yung policy ng university, pwede nyo po, ma'am, yun, magkaroon ulit kayo ng cascading. Kasi ngayon, kung umattend yung mga decision makers natin, at least maliwanag kung ano yung pinanggagalingan nung policy. No? So, mas mabilis natin yung mapapa-approve sa kanila. Pero definitely, we still need to cascade once the policy is already finalized and approved.
Okay, that's all, Ma'am Jen. Thank you very much. Can we have questions from the CPE function call muna if there are no questions yet in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah, Ma'am Editha Grande.
Picking up from Ma'am Sandoval, yung issue po ng possibility of non-administration of the BSU admission test. We still do not know because it's subject to the approval of the Board of Regents. And we know that yung BSU admission test is part of the admission process po ng university. So, and it's been informed that there were students who were already administered the battery of tests. We also have scheduled and a lot of follow-up actually are being made. So that's why I have raised the other week regarding the risk of non-administration of the BSU admission test. Siyempre, discretion po yan ng ating management. So, really, and this, we're talking of the admission test for school year 2020-2021. 21-22, I'm sorry. And
Mm-mm.
it's already March, towards April na. Ang ating first semester is August. If we will not be able to document that, ang worry ko po is that we will have NC or we have to change everything. Nasabi nga ni Ma'am Marina, yung flow chart, etc. will be affected, and our time is cramped already because we will be expecting the revisit by October 2021. So what's your thought?
Okay. Ang unang-una po, since that is really a major change, pagdating dun sa ating, the way we accept our applicants or our future students, I suggest na kahit na yan ay subject pa rin sa discretion ng ating top management, magandang ma-document pa din natin yung magiging consequence niya. So, pwedeng mag-start yan, ma'am, with the risk assessment. Risk assessment, no? So, dun sa risk assessment, kung lalabas siyang significant, pwede sigurong ma-call natin yung attention ng ating top management regarding sa mga implications nun. No? So, isa pa, sino po ba, before I proceed, sino po ma'am ang nag-initiate ng change?
It came about, hindi pa natin alam kung ma-implement or not, but it came about as a result of yung COVID-19 pandemic po. Especially now, masyadong nagpipick ang cases. So, the likelihood of it being deferred is high.
Okay. So, that's the result of the so, ang mangyayari po, ang nag-trigger niyan, sa department niyo po ba, ma'am, or top management?
Yung issue was discussed between the Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs and the OSS po.
Okay. So, pwedeng ang nag-trigger is the OSS?
Pwede po.
Opo, nag-trigger ang OSS. Ganito na lang, ma'am. I-document na lang po natin. Opo, sorry.
Mukhang hindi po. Kasi na yung issue of it being deferred came from the Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Okay. So,
We're trying to lobby
OVPAA. Alright.
Although, of course, we understand that it's a discretion of the management ng BSU.
Kasi po, in some organizations, meron silang dinefine no, sa kanilang change planning and control that if it is a requirement if it is triggered by the legal requirement, automatic yung change mag-implement. May ganun sila. So, hindi na siya dadaan doon sa change planning and control. Meron ka lang dong part na sa implementation, dapat ma-polish mo lang kung paano may implement yung change. Pero wala ka ng option kung implement ba siya o hindi. Okay? Pwede rin kasi na sa ganung case, ma'am, kasama yan doon sa sinasabi ko na exemption. Kasi kapag ang involved na ay risk nung ating student, halimbawa lang, no? Halimbawa, pwede nyo ilagay, kapag risk na yung life ng student, pwedeng maging discretion na yon ng top management na implement yung change, tapos yung discretion ng top management, exemption na doon sa ating planning and control part. Yung implementation nun, yun lang yung gagawa natin ng action plan. Parang ganun. Yes, ma'am. Ano pong insight ninyo doon, ma'am?
So, pag natapos na pong i-conduct yung risk assessment, will it stop there? Yung tipong dahil we can say na it's an exemption? Because
Dapat mamay, opo.
Up to now, we do not know whether it's going to be deferred or not. Hihintay pa po yung decision ng BOR.
Opo. Pag nag-risk assessment kayo, ma'am, di ba lumabas po yung significant? Tama po ba?
Yes.
Oo. Di ba, lalagay niyo po siya, ma'am, ng treatment plan. Ng treatment plan. So, yung treatment plan po na yon, kailangan nyo siyang i-implement.
Okay.
So, hindi po siya natatapos na nag-risk assessment lang tayo. Dapat po, implement natin yung treatment plans. Ngayon, kung halimbawa, maging permanent na ba siya or temporary siya? Pag naging permanent na siya, yun change na siya talaga, di ba? Magiging permanent change na siya. So, dapat mag-follow na doon yung mga changes dun sa ating mga procedures and other documentation.
Yes, ma'am. Copy,
Oo,
ma'am.
pero
Pero
for now
about
na temporary pa lang siya, pwedeng nasa ano pa lang siya, nasa kumbaga parang memorandum pa lang. Kasi temporary pa lang. Kumbaga initial, yun yung naging ano natin action, yung issue memorandum on the, ano ba ang tawag sa ganun? Hindi naman siya addendum eh. Parang ano lang, interim lang siya for the meantime lang. Pero kapag naging temporary, dun na magte-take effect sa lahat ng mga procedures natin. Parang ganun.
what happens, ma'am, sa arbitrary treatment of admission policy design? Yung
Ayun.
ang concern.
Opo, opo. Thank you, ma'am. Medyo special talaga, ma'am, yung scenario na yun, ano. Hanggang dun lang po muna yung maibibigay ko kasi hindi po kumbaga, kailangan ko pa ng mas in-depth na understanding para makapagbigay ako ng mas appropriate. So, that's how I look at it for now. Okay. Any other questions po? Thank you, ma'am, for raising that concern.
Hello,
Questions?
may tanong po ako regarding test or control. Meron po ba tayong minimum or maximum days or time sa test or control? Kasi ma'am, yung example kanina, like in relation to the curriculum, so indirect siya kasi matagal yung effect. So paano po yung test or control noon? Does it take time para magkaroon lang ng change?
Okay. Yun pong ating curriculum, nakalink din po yan sa ating design and development. Kung mapapansin po natin, sa ating procedure on design and revision of curriculum, meron po tayo dong planning at if I remember it right, di ba po parang meron yung mga prescribed timeline? Tama po ba? Or tayo
Yes.
yung nagde-define kung gaano katagal natin dapat ma-develop yung curriculum?
Ma'am, based po siya sa CHED.
Opo. So, yung CHED na yon, dun tayo, ma'am, nakalimit kung gaano katagal natin dapat i-subject sa test. Yung case na yon. So, yun pong test or control, nagdi-depend po siya dun sa klase ng change. So, kung meron siyang regulatory requirement, definitely, we have to follow the regulatory requirement. Kung wala naman po, tayo po ang magde-determine sa organization kung ano yung acceptable sa top management na time ng ating test and control or control. I hope na-answer ko po, Ma'am Bev.
Kasi yung ang concern ko is sa change control management kasi sabi nga kailangan may test or control. Pero paano kung medyo matagal? So does it mean we'll be waiting for 1 year before ma-approvean yung change or kung sakaling kailangan ng test or control na 1 year? Ganun po ba yun?
Possible, ma'am. Possible po na umabot sa ganun siya. Meron kasi mabilis lang, merong iba matagal po talaga. We cannot say kasi kung gaano rin yung impact kaya ganun katagal yung validation. Yun po.
Thank you po.
Basta ma'am, ano lang, justified lang na ganun siya talaga katagal. Kasi baka mamaya pwede naman palang 1 week lang tapos pinatagal naging 1 quarter, di ba? Hindi naman yata acceptable. Yun po. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Questions pa po?
Good afternoon, Ma'am Chen again.
Yes,
Ako po
ma'am.
yung nabas sa curriculum change kanina. I agree with the inclusion or the consideration of the direct effect as was raised by Marvin. Kasi yung direct effect, I agree with you, yung at saka kay si Chow, na yung the hiring of additional faculty, should there be additional subjects which is not in the actual framework of the present curriculum being offered, kung may dagdag o kaya pwedeng mag-decrease yung need sa faculty. Direct din kasi makikita natin yung epekto niyan doon sa budget po. Kaya maapektuhan yung budget structure. Kasi yung mga resources, yung the human, material resources, yung classroom, yung loading and all, mga direct effect po yun na ma-feel kaagad yung effect niyan, not necessarily na ikompleto natin yung cycle until the student will have to graduate from the degree program. So yun po ang parang nakikita na pwedeng sigurong i-assess doon sa aspeto ng sa direct effect like in the preparation of the load, yung doon po sa makikita din natin doon sa kasi kung sa estudyante talagang indirect po makita natin yan. Indirect po. Yung direct with the students would probably have something to do with the methodology, the teaching methodology that would impact the learning of the students. So, ang mga yun, parang yun din yung usual na kino-consider din po doon sa pag may visit sa ISO. So,
Tama po, ma'am. Yun pong specific example po ng change sa curriculum. So, ito po ay, again, ang implementation po nito dun sa ating procedure on revision or development or revision of the curriculum. So, yung pong mga impact na yun, maganda po na ma-raise natin. Ano? Tama po yung mga sinabi ninyo na direct, meron siyang direct and indirect for both, direct and indirect. Okay, sa operations at saka sa student, yung direct, tapos yung indirect, student siya. So, pwede rin siguro sa operation, in the long run, makikita rin natin kung, bagay hindi kasi tayo, hindi tayo profit organization, kaya hindi siya pala magkakaroon ng direct when it comes to our income. Ayun po, tama po yun, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing. Meron pong chat, the office has started changes in our processes and documents, making use of DCF. Would it be advisable to continue with the related changes in succeeding documents pending the approval of the change control policy? I think wala naman pong impact kasi if kung ang effect lang po nung change is yung mga documentation, you can still continue with that. Kasi from our definition, yung ating pong changes sa document, standard classification po. So kapag standard, hindi mo nagagamitin yung change planning and control form. Yung change planning and control form, kapag nag-fall lang siya sa minor, major, and significant change. Okay? So, any questions pa po? I thought makakapag-workshop pa tayo pero mukhang na-consume na yung ating time sa question and answer. Pero anyway, that's still a good exercise para po naklaro tayo dun sa mga tanong, lalo na yung mga concerns ni Dr. Marino. Again, please take note that if you are to come up with a policy, pwede nyo po yung gawin BSU way, no? Ang importante lang, ma-define natin ng maayos ano yung cover ng ating change policy, kung mayroong mga exemptions, paano yung structure na susundan natin, paano yung gagawin nating sistema, kung halimbawa hatiin natin siya na meron kang overall, meron kang sectoral, kasi yung standard ng change planning and control sa atin siya manggagaling. Okay? Ang importante lang during the audit, makita na meron tayong sistema doon at gumagana siya. Parang kagaya ng ginawa natin sa management review. Yung sa style na ginawa ni BSU, very different from other organizations that I handled before. Kasi sa amin straightforward, no? Isahan lang yung management review. Pero in your case, meron tayong sectoral, tapos meron pa siyang executive. No? Kasi yun yung pinakaakma para madali nating mapag-usapan yung mga concerns and issues and inputs ng management review. At the same time, ma-involve pa rin natin yung executive level or yung top management level natin doon sa mga issues na hindi kayang pagdesisyonan sa sectoral. And that is acceptable, no, as we have experienced from the audit of our certifying body. Same goes with our change planning and control. So pwede po nating laruin yung ibibigay ko sa inyong guideline at saka yung form, kayo po yung mag-define nun. Pero pag na-define na po, make sure na gagawin po yan ng lahat. Aware po yung lahat ng mga involved sa change at properly communicated po yung change na gagawin natin sa mga processes or sa process na involve. Okay po? Questions pa po so far? I hope, Sir Richard, makatulong po ito para ma-finalize yung inyong policy. Ano po?
Ma'am Jen,
Tanong
may
pa
isa
po?
dito.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am Jen, ma'am, kanina po, they're talking about the curriculum.
Mhm.
Ang question ko po is the checklist.
Opo.
The curriculum checklist, if it is, kung yung document code is quality form ACAD, ang ibig bang sabihin is yung process owner is from the academic or the VPAA. Yun ang naiintindihan ko, ma'am. Now, as for format, galing sa ACAD yung form, yung checklist, ma'am. But for the content, sa college po galing. Ngayon, we found out na may discrepancies, may dapat na change doon sa content. If we are going to put checklist doon sa checklist, ano po, kaya tinatanong ko kay Ma'am Marie kanina, I believe that that is a minor change, so sa DCF sana. But ang problema, galing sa ACAD yung form.
Okay.
What to do?
Yun po bang input dun sa checklist, malaki po ba yung magiging impact niya dun sa ating process?
Hindi naman, ma'am. Hindi naman masyado.
Hindi
We need to
masyado.
submit the, yes ma'am, although magkakaroon yan ng impact once na mag-graduate yung bata. Kasi itong checklist na to, it will be submitted to the OUR. OUR will be encoding, and then sila din ang mag-i-input doon sa number of units, number of hours. So kapag magpapa-OTR ang bata, may effect po doon.
Okay. So hindi lang siya basta document pala, ma'am. So therefore, hindi siya standard change. So, tingnan natin kung saan siya magfo-fall based on sa magiging definition ninyo ng minor, major, or significant. Pero definitely, kung ganun yung impact niya, ano siya, hindi siya standard lang. So, hindi lang siya DCF. Baka kailangan nyo nga siyang lagyan ng change control form.
Corrective action kaya? Mark?
Tapos
Sige, ma'am.
po, regarding kung sino po yung owner ng form, pwede po nating i-trace sa ating document controllers. Kasi po dun sa ating procedure, kung saan po nakalink na procedure yung ating form at kung sino po yung owner ng procedure, kadalasan po, siya po yung owner din ng form. So, ang mas makakasagot po kung sino yung owner nun is yung atin pong document controllers or yung documentation team na nagsulat nung procedure sa ating development and revision of curriculum at saka po yung nag-develop ng form na related dun sa procedure na yun. So, pero definitely, ma'am, if that will fall under minor, so meron kang change control form, change planning and control form, plus DCF, kasi mag-change ka ng document. Dalawa po. Okay po? I hope na answer po. May na-question po. Follow-up, ma'am. Is redefining processes fall under standard change? Redefining processes. So, ibig sabihin ng redefining processes, meron po bang matatanggal na activities? Kasi kung merong matatanggal na step, parang modification siya, no? Modification ng process. Baka hindi lang kailangan na document lang siya. Kasi kung halimbawa meron siyang impact sa customer, meron siyang ibang stakeholders na pwedeng maapektuhan nun, baka hindi lang siya standard change, no? So, tingnan natin kung sino yung mga pwedeng maapektuhan din yung change. At saka gaano kabilis bago ma-implement yung pag-define ng process. Kasi again, yung standard change kasi immediate mo siya magagawa. Pero kung halimbawa, magpapa-meeting ka pa, magko-consult ka pa, mag-test run ka pa para makita kung ano yung pinaka-appropriate na bagong process, o baka hindi na siya standard, sir. So, tingnan po natin yung mga activities na involved sa pag-redefine ng process natin. Okay? Questions pa po?
Any more questions? Kung wala naman na, Ma'am Jen.
Okay. So, kung wala na po, on time tayo. 1 minute lang tayo earlier than 4:30. And I hope na nakatulong po sa atin yung ating webinar for today. Hindi man tayo nakapag-workshop, pero through our answer and question allocated, yung time allocated natin for answers and question, nabigyan po tayo ng guideline, no? Kung paano natin naayusin at ika-craft yung change planning and control policy or guideline that will be suitable and will be effective for your organization. With that, Ma'am Marie, I think that would be all for today. Kung wala na pong katanungan, thank you once again for your time and for your active participation. I'll see you again tomorrow. So maaga pong start natin. Ano po, ma'am?
We start at 8:30, but the registration will start 8 o'clock to 8:30. So, Ma'am Jen,
Okay.
thank you very much once again for this lecture. Let's give a round of applause to Ma'am Jen. Thank you, thank you.
Ay, ma'am, meron po ba tayong picture taking? Kasi
Yes.
po, module, po to, no? Isang module.
Oo nga eh. But before that, kasi baka after picture taking, biglang kakalipas na ng takbo yung mga, lalo na
Sige
yung
po.
may I just make fast reminders. Please fill out the Google form for March 16 and March 17. They are in the GCs of document custodians and ISOPMS members, and also in the emails of those who are not in the GCs. Okay, and then good news, the certificates are already available. Yung March 3 and 4, they're already in Google Drive. So we will be forwarding this in the GCs a little later, mamaya siguro, no? And then, maybe please request the deans, directors, the R&E directors, the chiefs of offices of the admin and finance to please attend our remaining lectures. Tomorrow's lecture will be very important, internal quality audit and root cause analysis. So pakisabi nyo naman sa kanila na mag-attend. No? Kasi nakikita namin yun nandito at saka online, so konti ang nag-attend sa ating nasa middle level top management, and their roles here are actually very, very crucial, no? Very important. So there. So tomorrow, registration 8 to 8:30, and we're going to start immediately at 8:30. Okay. So picture taking na tayo, documentation. By row ulit.
Thank you po. Stay safe.